The moment my mother-in-law picked up my business card, held it at arm's length like it smelled bad, and laughed, I knew this dinner would be the worst yet. But I couldn't have predicted just how badly the evening would destroy what little remained of my marriage. Beacon Tech Solutions, Patricia read aloud, her voice dripping with amusement. She passed the card to her husband Gerald like it was a joke they were sharing. How adorable. Naomi's still playing with her little computer thing. I sat at the far end of the table at Romano's, the most expensive restaurant in the city. This wasn't my celebration. This was an engagement dinner for Trevor's younger brother Damien and his new fiancée Veronica. I was here because wives were expected to show up, smile and stay quiet. I had become very good at staying quiet. Naomi, sweetie, Patricia said, leaning forward with false concern. Her diamond necklace caught the light. Everything about Patricia caught the light. She made sure of it. Don't you think it's time to get serious about your career? You've been doing this hobby for what, 5 years now? 6 years, I corrected softly. My hands were folded in my lap, fingers twisted together so tightly my knuckles hurt. Gerald cleared his throat loudly. He was a large man who took up space deliberately, his voice always a little too loud, his laugh always demanding attention. Veronica, I apologize for this awkward topic. We don't usually discuss Naomi's little project at family dinners. It's somewhat embarrassing, honestly. My husband Trevor sat beside me, silent. He had been silent for 6 years. Veronica shifted uncomfortably in her seat. She was beautiful in an understated way, wearing a blue suit that probably cost more than my monthly mortgage. Her dark hair was pulled back neatly and she'd barely touched her wine. She looked like she wanted to be anywhere else. I don't think, Veronica began carefully, that we should. Oh, don't worry about offending her, Patricia interrupted, waving her hand dismissively. Naomi knows we love her. We just want what's best for her. Right, honey? She looked at Trevor expectantly. Trevor nodded. He always nodded. He cut his steak into precise pieces and said nothing. The thing is, Gerald continued, clearly warming to his topic, we've been very patient, very supportive. But at some point you have to face reality. Naomi, you're 32 years old. Trevor has a real career at the law firm. You're living in his house, using his money to fund these little experiments. It's time to grow up. The words hit me like slaps. Each one landed precisely where it would hurt most. The terrible thing was that I had heard variations of this speech so many times that I should have been numb to it. But I wasn't. It hurt every single time. She's not using my money, Trevor said quietly. Everyone turned to look at him. I felt a flutter of hope. Maybe this time he would defend me. Maybe after 6 years of silence he would finally speak up. She has her own bank account, Trevor continued, then added, though I'm not sure how much is actually in it. The hope died. Of course it did. Patricia laughed high and bright. Well, that's something at least. Tell me, Naomi, what exactly does this Beacon Tech thing do? Is it like one of those Etsy shops? Do you sell phone cases? My jaw tightened. I had explained my company to these people at least 20 times. They never listened. They never wanted to know. Knowing would mean acknowledging that I was building something real, and they had decided long ago that I was incapable of that. We develop cybersecurity solutions, I said, keeping my voice level. Specifically for healthcare systems. We protect patient data from... Oh, computers? Gerald interrupted. Right. Very trendy. Everyone wants to work with computers these days. But the market is so saturated, don't you think? All those big companies like Microsoft and Google. How does a little hobby project compete with that? It's not a hobby, I said, and hated how small my voice sounded. It's a registered business. We have clients. We have. How many employees do you have? Patricia asked, leaning forward with mock interest. 37. 37 people working for your little startup? Gerald's eyebrows rose. How on earth are you paying them? We're profitable, I said. Trevor made a small sound next to me. Not quite a laugh, but close. It was the sound he made when he thought I was exaggerating. Patricia reached over and patted my hand. Her skin was cold, her rings hard against my knuckles. Of course you are, dear. I'm sure you're doing just fine with your little venture. But you have to understand, when we see someone like Veronica here, who's a senior partner at Harrison Ventures, one of the top venture capital firms in Silicon Valley, well, it puts things in perspective, doesn't it? All eyes turned to Veronica. She had gone very still, her wine glass frozen halfway to her lips. Veronica invests in real companies, Damien said proudly. He was 2 years younger than Trevor, better looking, more charming. He had inherited all of Gerald's confidence without the cruelty. Or so I had thought before tonight. Companies that actually matter. That actually change industries. What kind of companies do you invest in? Patricia asked Veronica eagerly. Various sectors, Veronica said carefully. She set down her wine glass and I noticed her hand was shaking slightly. Technology primarily. Healthcare tech, educational platforms, renewable energy startups. See Naomi? Gerald said triumphantly. Healthcare tech. Real healthcare tech. The kind that gets venture capital funding from firms like Harrison Ventures. Not little hobby projects run out of someone's garage. I don't work out of a garage, I said quietly. I have an office building downtown. 12,000 square feet. Trevor turned to look at me then, his expression confused. You do? I stared at my husband. We had been married for 6 years. We had dated for 2 years before that. And he didn't know where I went every day. He didn't know that I left our house at 7 in the morning and came home at 8 at night. He didn't know that I spent weekends working. He didn't know anything about my life. The realization settled over me like cold water. Where did you think I was going every day? I asked him. He shrugged, uncomfortable. I don't know. Coffee shops? The library? I figured you were doing your computer stuff wherever. Patricia laughed again, that bright, cutting sound. Oh, Trevor, honestly, you should pay more attention to your wife. Though I suppose if the work was impressive, she'd talk about it more, wouldn't she? I had talked about it. I had tried to talk about it. At family dinners, I had mentioned contracts signed, clients acquired, problems solved. They had smiled and nodded and changed the subject to Trevor's cases, to Damien's golf handicap, to Patricia's charity luncheons. After a while, I stopped trying. The point is, Gerald said, gesturing broadly with his wine glass, Naomi needs to be realistic. Trevor's making good money at the firm. There's no shame in being a housewife. Patricia never worked a day after we married, and look how well that turned out. Patricia beamed at this assessment of her life. Maybe you could do some volunteering, Patricia suggested kindly. The junior league is always looking for members. Or you could take some cooking classes. You know Trevor loves a good home-cooked meal. I couldn't remember the last time I had cooked dinner. I was never home in time. I'm not going to be a housewife, I said. The table went quiet. I had broken an unspoken rule. I was supposed to smile and nod and let them mold me into whatever shape made them comfortable. I was supposed to be grateful for their advice, their concern, their relentless efforts to make me smaller. Well, Patricia said, her smile turning cold, I suppose some women aren't cut out for traditional roles. Though it might be nice if you contributed something to the household, since you're living off Trevor's income. I pay half the mortgage, I said. Trevor shifted beside me. It's fine, Mom. Really. Naomi contributes. Does she? Gerald asked. Because from where I'm sitting, it looks like she's playing entrepreneur while you're carrying the financial burden of the household. That's not a partnership, son. That's a dependent. My face burned. I wanted to defend myself, to list every deposit I had made into our joint account, every bill I had paid. But what was the point? They had already decided who I was. Facts wouldn't change their minds. Veronica cleared her throat. I think perhaps we should change the subject. Oh, you're right, Patricia said quickly. I'm so sorry, Veronica. This is your engagement dinner. We shouldn't be wasting time on Naomi's little situation. Tell us more about Harrison Ventures. It must be so exciting working with all those brilliant founders. I watched Veronica's face as Patricia spoke. She looked pained, caught between politeness and discomfort. Her eyes kept drifting to me, then away, like she couldn't quite figure out how to help without making things worse. It's rewarding work, Veronica said carefully. We look for companies that are solving real problems. Companies with strong leadership and clear vision. And you must meet so many impressive people, Damien said, squeezing her hand. Geniuses, right? People who are really changing the world. Some of them, Veronica agreed. Not like our Naomi here, Gerald joked. No offense, dear, but you're not exactly in the same league as the people Veronica works with. I felt something crack inside me then. It wasn't dramatic. It wasn't loud. It was just a quiet breaking, like the last thread holding something together finally snapping under too much weight. I looked at Trevor. Really looked at him. He was handsome in a conventional way with his neat haircut and expensive suit. He looked successful. He looked like someone who had made good choices. And maybe he had. Maybe choosing a wife he could feel superior to was a perfectly logical decision for someone like him. Excuse me, I said, standing up. I need to use the restroom. No one tried to stop me. No one looked concerned. They just watched me go with mild annoyance, like I was interrupting the real conversation they wanted to have. I walked through the restaurant, past tables filled with people who looked happy, past couples who leaned toward each other instead of away. I locked myself in the bathroom and stared at my reflection in the mirror. I looked tired. I looked small. I was wearing a green dress that Patricia had once said made me look cute, which I now realized was just another way of saying I looked unthreatening. My hair was pulled back simply. My makeup was minimal. I had learned to make myself invisible at these family dinners. My phone buzzed in my purse. I pulled it out and saw an email notification. It was from my CFO, Tandy. Board meeting moved to Monday. Quarterly revenue projections exceeded expectations by 42%. Great work, boss. I stared at the email. At the word boss. At the numbers that represented months of brutal work, of 18-hour days, of sacrificing sleep and social life and any semblance of balance. Beacon Tech Solutions wasn't a hobby. It wasn't a cute little project. It was a company that employed 37 people and protected the medical data of 18 million patients across 4 states. It was partnerships with major hospital systems and contracts worth millions of dollars. It was my work, my vision, my sleepless nights turned into something real. And my husband didn't even know where my office was. I splashed cold water on my face and returned to the table. Dessert had arrived. Patricia was telling a story about someone's daughter who had married a doctor. Gerald was laughing. Trevor was checking his phone. Damien and Veronica were holding hands, though Veronica still looked uncomfortable. I sat down quietly. No one acknowledged my return. So, Veronica, Patricia was saying, you must work with some of the most innovative companies in the country. What's the most exciting investment your firm has made recently? Veronica hesitated. We've been pursuing a partnership with a cybersecurity firm for the past 8 months. The founder has been very selective about investors. Playing hard to get? Gerald joked. Smart business move. Make them chase you. It's not a game, Veronica said. This particular founder has built something genuinely revolutionary. The technology they've developed for healthcare data protection is years ahead of anything else on the market. We've offered extremely favorable terms, but they won't meet with us. They sound difficult, Patricia said. They sound brilliant, Veronica corrected. And they have every right to be selective. When you're that successful, you don't need to jump at the first offer. I felt something shift in my chest. A strange, light feeling. Like the moment before lightning strikes. What's the company called? Damien asked. Veronica glanced at me just for a second. I probably shouldn't say. It's not public information yet that we're pursuing them. Oh, come on, Gerald cajoled. We're family. Well, almost family. You can tell us. Veronica took a sip of her wine. She looked directly at me when she spoke. The company is called Beacon Tech Solutions. The table went silent. I watched their faces. Watched confusion flicker across Patricia's features. Watched Gerald's eyes narrow. Watched Trevor's head snap up from his phone. Wait, Patricia said slowly. That's the name of Naomi's little? She stopped. Her mouth hung open slightly. Veronica was still looking at me. Can you tell me something, Naomi? What's your last name? Harper, I said quietly. Naomi Harper. The fork dropped from Veronica's hand. It clattered against her plate with a sound that seemed impossibly loud in the sudden silence. Oh my God, Veronica whispered. You're Ann Harper. You're the founder I've been chasing for 8 months. I need to tell you how I ended up at that dinner table, sitting next to a man who didn't know me at all. Because it didn't happen overnight. It took years of small compromises, tiny erasures, daily choices to make myself smaller. And it started the day I met Trevor. I was 24, fresh out of graduate school with a master's in computer science and a head full of ideas that seemed too big for my body to contain. I had spent my thesis year developing the early framework for what would become Beacon Tech Solutions, working with a professor who believed that healthcare data breaches were the next major crisis waiting to happen. He was right. I was right. But being right doesn't matter much when you're a young black woman trying to get people to take your ideas seriously. I met Trevor at a coffee shop near campus. He was 3 years older, already working at his father's law firm, already comfortable in the world in a way I had never been. He wore nice suits. He smiled easily. He bought my coffee without asking, and I thought it was romantic instead of presumptuous. You look stressed, he said, sliding into the seat across from me even though I hadn't invited him. I had papers spread across the table. Code printouts, security diagrams, notes written in margins. I was trying to figure out how to turn my thesis into a business, how to find funding, how to make anyone care about patient data protection before it was too late. I'm working, I told him. On what? I explained it to him. I explained the vulnerability of electronic health records, the outdated security protocols most hospitals used, the potential for massive data breaches that could expose millions of people's most private information. I explained how I had developed a new approach to encryption, a system that could protect data without slowing down the access that healthcare workers needed. He listened. Or I thought he listened. He nodded at the right times, asked questions that seemed intelligent. When I finished, he said, "That's really impressive. You're clearly very smart." I felt seen. That was the hook, I think. He made me feel seen. We dated for 2 years before he proposed. During that time, I was building beacon tech solutions from nothing. I maxed out credit cards. I worked 3 part-time jobs while coding at night. I slept 4 hours and dreamed in algorithms. I landed my first client, a small community hospital that was willing to take a chance on an unknown company. Trevor was supportive. Or I thought he was supportive. He let me talk about my work at dinner. He didn't complain when I canceled dates to meet with potential clients. He said he was proud of me. But he never asked about the details. Never wanted to see my office when I finally rented a tiny space above a dry cleaner. Never offered to help with anything beyond emotional support, which mostly meant nodding while I talked and saying, "That's great, babe," whenever I shared good news. I met his family 6 months into our relationship. Sunday dinner at their house, a massive place in the suburbs with a circular driveway and professionally landscaped gardens. Patricia answered the door in pearls and a dress that probably cost more than my monthly rent. "So you're the girl Trevor's been seeing?" she said, looking me up and down with an expression I couldn't quite read. Gerald was already in the living room, whiskey in hand, watching golf on a television the size of my apartment wall. Damien was there too, younger and shinier, fresh out of college and already working at the same law firm where Trevor and Gerald worked. "Welcome," Gerald said, not getting up. "Trevor tells us you're in computers." "I'm developing cybersecurity software," I said. "Right, computers?" he repeated as if I hadn't spoken. That should have been my first clue. Dinner was formal. There were multiple forks. Patricia corrected my posture twice. The conversation centered on the law firm, on cases Gerald was handling, on Damien's future, on Trevor's prospects for making partner. When I tried to mention that I had just signed my second client, Patricia smiled kindly and changed the subject to whether I had thought about what kind of wedding I might want someday. Trevor and I weren't even engaged yet. But Patricia had already decided I would be part of the family, which apparently meant I should start thinking about my role. And that role didn't include building a tech company. After dinner, Trevor and I sat in his car outside my apartment. "They liked you," he said. "Did they?" "Of course they did. Mom thinks you're sweet." Sweet. That word would haunt me for years. "Your dad didn't seem very interested in my work," I said carefully. Trevor shrugged. "He's old school. He doesn't really get tech stuff. But it doesn't matter. I get it. I'm interested." I wanted to believe him. So I did. We got married a year later. Patricia planned most of the wedding. I was too busy to fight her on the details, and she seemed to care so much about things like napkin colors and seating charts. I told myself it was generous, her taking over like that. I didn't recognize it for what it was. An early test of how much control I would surrender. The first year of marriage was good. Or maybe I just remember it as good because it was before things got truly bad. Trevor worked long hours at the firm. I worked longer hours building my company. We were two ambitious people building careers. It felt like partnership. But small things started to change. Trevor stopped asking about my day. When I talked about work problems, he would offer quick solutions without really listening to the actual issue. He started making jokes about my little business to his colleagues at firm events. "Naomi's playing entrepreneur," he would say, laughing. "She's got this tech thing she's working on. Very cute." I would smile because what else could I do? But I started talking less about work around his friends. Started downplaying my success when his family asked. Started making myself smaller to make them more comfortable. Beacon Tech Solutions was growing. By year 2 of our marriage, I had 8 employees and contracts with 4 hospital systems. By year 3, I had 15 employees and had started getting attention from the industry. By year 4, I was managing 20 people and had expanded into 3 states. And Trevor knew none of it. He knew I went to work. He knew I came home late. But he never asked about the specifics. Never wanted to visit the office. Never met my employees. When I tried to tell him about major milestones, he would say, "That's great," and turn back to his own work. His family got worse as I got busier. Patricia started making comments about how I was never available for family events. Gerald started joking about how I was married to my computer. Damien, who I had once thought was kind, started making cracks about how I should let Trevor handle the finances since I was clearly struggling with my hobby. The terrible thing was that they said it all with smiles. With love even. They weren't trying to be cruel. They genuinely believed they were helping me by encouraging me to give up and embrace a simpler life. And Trevor never defended me. Not once. Not ever. In year 5 of our marriage, I stopped going to family dinners. I claimed work emergencies, tight deadlines, urgent meetings. It was easier than sitting through another evening of being patronized. Trevor would go without me and come home reporting that his mother was worried about me, that his father thought I was being selfish, that everyone missed me. I didn't miss them. But I missed having a partner. I missed having someone who knew me, really knew me, and was proud of me. I missed the man I thought Trevor was when we first met, before I realized he had only ever seen what he wanted to see. 6 months before the engagement dinner, I had a breakthrough. A major hospital system in Chicago signed a 5-year contract worth $20 million. It was the biggest deal Beacon Tech Solutions had ever landed. It validated everything I had been working toward. It proved that my technology wasn't just good, it was the best available. I came home that night planning to celebrate. I bought expensive wine. I picked up dinner from Trevor's favorite restaurant. I was going to tell him everything. Show him the contract. Explain what it meant for the company, for our future. He got home at midnight. He had been at a firm dinner that I hadn't known about. "Oh, you got food?" he said, looking at the cold takeout containers. "I already ate." "Sorry." I tried anyway. I told him about the Chicago deal. I explained the numbers, the implications, the fact that this made Beacon Tech Solutions a major player in the industry. He nodded. He said, "That's great, babe." He went upstairs to bed. I sat alone in the kitchen with the expensive wine and realized I was living with a stranger. But I didn't leave. I should have left. But leaving meant admitting that I had wasted 6 years. It meant accepting that I had chosen wrong. It meant being alone. So I stayed. I kept going to my office. I kept building my company. I kept coming home to a man who didn't see me. And I told myself that it was fine, that I had my work, that I didn't need more than that. I told myself a lot of lies in those years. The worst part was that I started to believe what they said about me. Started to wonder if maybe they were right, if maybe I was foolish for thinking I could build something significant. Started to question whether my success was real or just luck. Started to feel like maybe I was the problem. Because that's what happens when enough people tell you that you're not enough. Eventually you start to believe them. 3 months before the engagement dinner, Damien announced his engagement to Veronica. I had never met her before. All I knew was that she was important, that the family was excited, that this was a big deal. Patricia called me personally to insist I come to the dinner. "I know you're busy with your little project," she said, "but family comes first. Trevor needs you there." We all do. The guilt worked. It always worked. So I agreed to go, even though I knew it would be awful, even though I knew they would spend the entire evening making me feel small. I just didn't know how much smaller they would try to make me. I didn't know that this dinner would be the one where everything finally broke. I should have known though. Because every time I thought things couldn't get worse, they did. Every time I thought I had found the bottom of their contempt, they revealed a new depth. The night before the dinner, I couldn't sleep. I lay next to Trevor in the dark and wondered what it would be like to be married to someone who actually knew me. Someone who asked questions and listened to answers. Someone who was proud of me instead of embarrassed. I wondered what it would be like to be free. But I didn't seriously consider leaving. Not yet. Because I still believed on some level that I could make this work. That if I just tried harder, if I just explained things better, if I just succeeded enough, they would finally see me. That's the saddest part looking back. I thought I needed to earn their respect. I thought I needed to prove my worth. I didn't understand yet that some people will never see you no matter how bright you shine. That realization would come soon enough. At a dinner table in an expensive restaurant, when a woman I had never met before would drop her fork and everything would change. But on that night before the dinner, lying in the dark next to my husband, I was still hoping, still trying, still making myself small enough to fit into their narrow view of who I should be. Tomorrow I would stop hoping. Tomorrow I would start seeing clearly. Tomorrow, everything would break beyond repair, and I would finally understand that some things shouldn't be fixed. Some things should just end. Time moved strangely after Veronica said my name. Everything slowed down, each second stretching like taffy, giving me space to notice details I might otherwise have missed. The way Patricia's hand froze halfway to her wine glass. The way Gerald's jaw went slack. The way Trevor's head turned toward me with an expression I had never seen before. Confusion. Complete, total confusion. I don't understand, Patricia said. Her voice had lost its smooth confidence. She sounded uncertain, which was something I had never heard from her before. Veronica wasn't looking at Patricia. She was staring at me with an expression that mixed shock, embarrassment, and something that might have been respect. Her face had gone pale, and she was gripping the edge of the table like she needed it for support. "N. Harper," she repeated, speaking slowly like she was working through a puzzle. The N stands for Naomi. I've been emailing your assistant for 8 months trying to schedule a meeting with you. I've sent investment proposals. I've called your office at least 30 times. Your CFO keeps telling me you'll consider our offer when you're ready. I nodded. This was true. Harrison Ventures had been persistent, and Tandy had fielded their calls with professional patience. I hadn't been ready to meet with them. I hadn't needed their money. I had been selective about partners because I could afford to be. But that can't be right, Gerald said. He looked at me, then at Veronica, then back at me. You're talking about Naomi's little hobby. Her garage project. I'm talking about Beacon Tech Solutions, Veronica said. She pulled out her phone with hands that shook slightly. She scrolled through something, then turned the screen toward the table. This is the company. The founder maintains a low profile. No public photos, very few interviews. The tech community knows her as N. Harper. I've been trying to meet her for months. On her phone screen was the Beacon Tech website. Professional, clean, showcasing our partnerships with major hospital systems. In the corner was our logo, simple and strong. That's my company, I said quietly. Gerald laughed. It was a confused sound, uncertain. No, that can't be right. Naomi works on computers at home. She has a little startup thing. This is different. It's not different, Veronica said. She was looking at me with something close to awe now. This is the same company. Beacon Tech Solutions is valued at $2.3 billion. They have partnerships with 68 hospital systems across 12 states. They employ, she paused, checking her phone, 37 people currently, with plans to expand to 50 by end of quarter. The number hit the table like a bomb. Trevor made a choking sound. 2.3 billion? That's the last valuation we calculated based on revenue, contracts, and projected growth, Veronica said. She was still staring at me. The company is privately held. And Harper owns 92% of it herself. She's refused all investment offers until now. No, Patricia said. The word came out sharp, almost angry. That's not possible. Naomi's been working on some little project. She doesn't have clients. She doesn't have a real office. She has an office building downtown, Veronica said. 12,000 square feet. I drove past it last week trying to work up the courage to walk in without an appointment. The lobby has a water feature and the Beacon Tech logo in brushed steel letters 3 feet high. I knew exactly which water feature she meant. I had chosen it myself. Damien was looking back and forth between Veronica and me. You said you've been chasing this founder for 8 months. You talk about her constantly. You said she was one of the most brilliant minds in tech security. She is, Veronica said simply. But that's Naomi, Damien said, as if this was an argument against what Veronica was saying. She's just Naomi. Just Naomi. The phrase sat in the air like smoke. Trevor turned to me. His eyes were wide. Is this true? Are you really? Is this actually your company? I looked at my husband. At the man I had been married to for 6 years. The man who shared a house with me, a bed with me, a last name with me. The man who didn't know the most basic facts about my life. Yes, I said. But you never said, he started. I told you, I interrupted. I told you about every contract, every expansion, every milestone. I told you about the Chicago deal 6 months ago. $20 million. I came home with wine to celebrate. You said, that's great, babe, and went to bed. His mouth opened and closed. He had no defense because we both knew I was right. Patricia made a sound that was half laugh, half gasp. This is ridiculous. Veronica, surely there's been some mistake. Some confusion. Naomi can't possibly be running a multi-billion-dollar company. She doesn't even dress like someone successful. I looked down at my green dress. The one Patricia had called cute. The one I had worn specifically because I knew it made me look harmless, unthreatening, easy to dismiss. How exactly should someone successful dress? I asked. Patricia floundered. Well, I mean, you know, professional. Like Veronica. Like someone who matters in the business world. I own 3 suits, I said, my voice steady. All of them custom made. I wear them to board meetings and client presentations. I don't wear them to family dinners because I've learned that looking professional at these events just makes you all more uncomfortable. Gerald found his voice. Came out too loud, too defensive. Now hold on. Let's not get carried away here. Even if this is true, even if you've somehow managed to build something bigger than we thought, that doesn't excuse your attitude. Your absence from family events. Your refusal to contribute properly to your marriage. Contribute properly? I repeated. You know what I mean. You're so focused on this work thing that you neglect your actual responsibilities. To Trevor. To this family. My actual responsibilities, I said slowly, are to the 37 people who depend on me for their paychecks. To the 18 million patients whose medical data we protect. To the hospital systems that trust us with their most sensitive information. But what about your husband? Patricia demanded. What about your marriage? What about it? I asked. I was surprised by how calm I felt. How clear. Like fog lifting after years of obscuring my vision. What exactly have I neglected? I pay half the mortgage on a house Trevor chose. I show up to family events where you spend hours insulting me. I sleep next to a man who doesn't know where I work. Which part of that sounds like partnership to you? You're being dramatic, Gerald said, but his voice wavered. Am I? I turned to Trevor. Where is my office? He stared at me. I don't know. How many employees do I have? You said 37. I didn't know that before tonight. What was our biggest contract this year? Silence. What's the name of my CFO? My head of development? My lead security analyst? Nothing. He had nothing to say. I know the name of every partner at your firm, I said quietly. I know your cases. I know your billable hours. I know about the promotion you're hoping for next quarter. I know all of this because I listen when you talk. Because I care about your life. Can you say the same? Trevor's face had gone red. That's not fair. You never really explained. You made it sound small. I made it sound exactly as big as it is, I said. You chose not to listen. Veronica cleared her throat. Everyone had forgotten she was there. I think I owe you an enormous apology, Naomi. If I had known you were sitting at this table, if I had recognized you, I never would have let anyone speak about your work so dismissively. You didn't know, I said. How could you? I should have figured it out. The company name was right there on your business card. But I didn't make the connection because, she paused, looking genuinely distressed, because I believed what they were saying. About it being a hobby. A small project. I'm so sorry. It's not your fault, I said. It is partly. I let myself make assumptions. Veronica turned to look at Damien. Her expression was unreadable. Your family has spent the entire evening mocking someone who is, frankly, more successful than anyone at this table. Including me. That's an exaggeration, Gerald said quickly. Is it? Veronica pulled up something else on her phone. Beacon Tech Solutions had revenue of $340 million last year. Projected revenue this year is $520 million. The company is growing at a rate that has venture capital firms across the country fighting for a chance to invest. And Naomi, is considered one of the most innovative founders in healthcare technology. There are articles about her company in Forbes, Fortune, TechCrunch. She's been asked to speak at conferences. She's turned down most of them because she prefers to focus on the work rather than publicity. Patricia's face had gone from white to red. We didn't know. How were we supposed to know? Because I told you, I said. I told you over and over. You chose not to believe me. You made it sound small, she insisted. No, I said firmly. You decided it was small because you couldn't imagine me doing anything big. You made up your mind about who I was and refused to see anything that contradicted that image. Gerald pushed his chair back from the table. I think you're being very unfair right now, Naomi. We've always supported you. We've been patient with your little business venture. We've never complained about you using Trevor's money to fund it. I have never used Trevor's money, I said. My voice was rising now, frustration finally breaking through the calm. I have my own bank accounts, my own income. I'm probably making more than Trevor at this point. I don't need his money. I never have. How much do you make? Trevor asked suddenly. The question hung in the air. I looked at my husband and saw genuine confusion on his face. He really didn't know. After 6 years of marriage, he had no idea what I earned or what I was worth. Last year, I said slowly, I paid myself a salary of $180,000. That's lower than I could have paid myself because I chose to reinvest most profits back into the company. The 92% ownership stake that Veronica mentioned? Based on the current valuation, that's worth approximately $2.1 billion. The number seemed to suck the air out of the room. Damien let out a low whistle. Holy God. Trevor just stared at me. His face had gone through confusion, shock, and was now settling into something that looked like betrayal. Why didn't you tell me? I did tell you, I said, and I was so tired suddenly. So exhausted from years of trying to make him see me. You didn't want to hear it. That's not true. I would have listened if I knew it was this big. Why should the size matter? Why should you only care about my work if it's worth billions? Why wasn't it enough that it mattered to me? He had no answer. Patricia made one last attempt to regain control of the situation. Well, this is all very surprising. Very impressive, Naomi. But I still think you owe us an apology for how you've behaved tonight. For being so defensive and aggressive when we were just trying to have a nice family dinner. I looked at her. Really looked at her. At this woman who had spent 6 years trying to shrink me down to a size she found acceptable. At this woman who had apologized to a stranger for my existence not 2 hours ago. No, I said simply. Excuse me? I'm not apologizing. Not for tonight. Not for anything. You spent this entire dinner insulting me. You mocked my work. You suggested I was a burden on my husband. You implied I was a failure and an embarrassment. And now you want me to apologize for not taking it quietly? We didn't know, Patricia said, but her voice was weak now. That's the problem, I said. You didn't know because you didn't care to know. And if Veronica hadn't been here, if this revelation hadn't happened, you would have continued treating me the same way. The only thing that's changed is that now you know I'm successful. But I was the same person an hour ago when you were laughing at my business card. I was the same person 6 years ago when I told you about my first contract. Success doesn't make me more worthy of respect. I deserved respect all along. The silence that followed was profound. No one seemed to know what to say. Gerald looked angry but confused, like he wanted to argue but couldn't quite figure out how. Patricia looked lost. Trevor looked like he was seeing me for the first time and didn't quite recognize what he was seeing. Only Veronica looked like she understood. She met my eyes across the table and nodded slightly. I think I need some air, I said, pushing my chair back. Excuse me. This time when I left the table it felt different. I wasn't running away. I was walking toward something. Toward clarity. Toward truth. Toward whatever came next. I went outside the restaurant. The night air was cool and sharp. I stood on the sidewalk and breathed deeply, letting the oxygen fill my lungs and clear my head. My phone buzzed. Tandy. Hey boss. Random question. Are you okay? You haven't answered my last 3 emails and that's not like you. I smiled at my phone. Tandy knew me. She paid attention. She noticed when I was off. I'm fine, I texted back. Just at a family dinner. Say no more. Sending positive vibes. Also, the Johnson medical contract is ready for your signature. $15 million over 3 years. Not bad for a Tuesday. Not bad at all. I heard the restaurant door open behind me. Footsteps on the sidewalk. I turned, expecting Trevor. Was Veronica. Mind if I join you? She asked. It's a free sidewalk. She stood next to me, both of us looking out at the street. Cars passed. People walked by, caught up in their own lives, unaware of the small earthquake that had just happened inside the restaurant. I really am sorry, Veronica said. For tonight. For every email my assistant sent. For not recognizing you immediately. You keep apologizing, I said. You don't need to. I do though. Because I'm supposed to be good at this. At identifying talent. At seeing potential. And I sat there for an hour listening to them tear you apart and I didn't question it. I let their narrative shape my perception of you. That's on me. I appreciated her honesty. Why didn't you recognize me? Most people in venture capital know what N. Harper looks like by now. Actually, they don't. You've done an impressive job maintaining privacy. No photos on the company website. No interviews with accompanying headshots. The few times you've spoken at conferences, you've refused to be photographed. The tech community respects it. Some people think it's smart branding. Others think it's genius privacy protection. I think it's both. It's self-preservation, I said honestly. I'm a young black woman running a tech company. Do you know how many people already doubt me without ever seeing my face? I can't imagine how much worse it would be if they could form judgments based on appearance before even hearing about my work. Veronica nodded slowly. I understand that more than you might think. We stood in comfortable silence for a moment. Can I ask you something? Veronica said. Sure. Why did you keep coming to these dinners? If they treated you this badly, why not just stop? I thought about it. I kept hoping it would get better, that they would eventually see me. And I felt guilty. Like maybe I wasn't trying hard enough. Like maybe if I just explained things better or achieved more, they would understand. That's not how respect works, Veronica said gently. I know that now. She turned to look at me directly. What are you going to do? About what? About everything. Your marriage. The family. Moving forward. I met her eyes. I have no idea. That was the truth. Standing on that sidewalk outside the restaurant, my entire life felt like it was balanced on a knife edge. Everything I thought I knew had shifted. Everything I thought was solid had revealed itself to be fragile. For what it's worth, Veronica said, I think you're going to be fine. Better than fine. Anyone who builds what you've built has the strength to handle whatever comes next. Thank you, I said and meant it. Also, she added almost hesitantly, if you ever decide you want to talk about that investment proposal, I'd be honored to present it properly. Not as an ambush at a family dinner, but as a real conversation between professionals. I smiled slightly. I'll think about it. That's all I can ask. The restaurant door opened again. This time it was Trevor. He looked stressed, his tie loosened, his hair slightly messy like he'd been running his hands through it. I should go, Veronica said quickly. Good luck, Naomi. With everything. She went back inside, leaving me alone with my husband. Can we talk? Trevor asked. I looked at him and felt nothing. No anger. No love. No hope. Just a profound emptiness where 6 years of marriage should have left something stronger. What do you want to say? I asked. I didn't know, he started. I really didn't know it was this big. You have to believe me. I believe you, I said. That's the problem. Trevor stood on the sidewalk looking lost. His hands were in his pockets, his shoulders slightly hunched against the night air. For the first time in years I saw him clearly. Not as the man I hoped he would become. Not as the husband I wished I had. But as exactly who he was. A man who had chosen not to see me. What does that mean? He asked. That's the problem? It means you didn't know because you didn't want to know, I said. My voice was calm, matter-of-fact. All the anger had burned away during dinner, leaving only clarity behind. You didn't ask questions. You didn't show interest. You made up your mind about who I was and what I was capable of, and you never looked deeper. That's not fair, he said, but his protest was weak. Isn't it? Trevor, we've been married for 6 years. You don't know where I work. You don't know the names of my employees. You don't know what my company does beyond some vague idea that it involves computers. When I came home 6 months ago to tell you about the Chicago contract, you didn't even ask what the contract was for. You could have made me listen, he said, a flash of defensiveness in his tone. Made you? I repeated. I'm your wife, not your teacher. I shouldn't have to force you to care about my life. He looked away, staring at the cars passing on the street. I thought you were exaggerating. When you talked about clients and contracts, I thought you were making it sound bigger than it was. You know, like people do. Like people do, I echoed. You thought I was lying. Not lying exactly. Just inflating things. Because you couldn't imagine me building something real. I didn't say that. You didn't have to. Your actions said it every day for 6 years. Trevor's face flushed. You're acting like I'm the villain here. Like I did something terrible. I just didn't understand the scope of your work. That's not a crime. You're right, I agreed. It's not a crime. It's just a failure. A fundamental failure of partnership, of curiosity, of respect. I do respect you, he insisted. Do you? Because you sat at that dinner table and let your parents mock me for an hour. You didn't defend me once. You laughed along with them. When your dad called me embarrassing, you nodded. When your mom suggested I should give up my work and volunteer at the junior league, you stayed silent. I didn't know what to say, he said weakly. You could have said anything. You could have told them to stop. You could have left the restaurant with me. You could have stood up for me in any of the 100 family dinners where they've treated me like a disappointment. But you didn't. You never did. The restaurant door opened behind us. Gerald stepped out, his face arranged in what he probably thought was a conciliatory expression. Naomi, he said, his voice attempting warmth and failing. I think we should all go back inside and have a calm discussion about this misunderstanding. There's no misunderstanding, I said. Now let's not be hasty. Obviously there's been some confusion about the scope of your little business. We're willing to admit we may have underestimated things. May have? I asked. Gerald's jaw tightened. Fine. We underestimated. We're sorry. Can we please go back inside and finish dinner like civilized people? I'm not hungry anymore. Naomi, Trevor said, his voice taking on a pleading quality. Come on. Don't make this into a bigger thing than it needs to be. I looked at him. A bigger thing? Your family spent the evening insulting me. Your mother literally apologized to a stranger for my existence. Your father called me an embarrassment. They suggested I was a financial burden and a failure. And you think I'm making it bigger than it needs to be? They didn't know, Trevor said again, like this phrase could excuse everything. Neither did you, I reminded him. Patricia came out then, her heels clicking on the sidewalk. Her face was tight with barely controlled emotion. I will not be spoken to this way by anyone, let alone someone who has been welcomed into this family with open arms. Open arms. I laughed, and the sound was sharp even to my own ears. Is that what you call it? 6 years of subtle insults and condescension. 6 years of making me feel small at every opportunity. 6 years of treating my work like it's a phase I'll grow out of. That's your version of welcome? We have always been kind to you, Patricia insisted. Kind, I repeated. You've been polite. There's a difference. You've smiled while you insulted me. You've laughed while you dismissed everything I care about. You've treated me like a child playing dress-up in the adult world. That's not kindness. That's cruelty with good manners. You're being hysterical, Gerald said. I turned to him. I'm being clear. Maybe you're not used to me speaking plainly because I've spent 6 years trying to be palatable to you. Trying to be small enough that you'd find me acceptable. But I'm done with that now. Damien emerged from the restaurant with Veronica close behind. He looked uncomfortable, caught between his family and his fiancée. Veronica looked quietly furious. Can we all just calm down? Damien asked. This is supposed to be a happy occasion. My engagement dinner. Can we not ruin it with family drama? I looked at him. Sweet, charming Damien who had made jokes at my expense all evening. I'm not ruining anything. Your family did that on their own. We were just having fun, Damien said defensively. Some light teasing. It's what families do. Is it? I asked. Is teasing usually this mean? This pointed? This designed to make someone feel worthless? You're being too sensitive, he said. Veronica made a small sound of disgust. She's not being sensitive. She's being accurate. Damien turned to her, surprised. You're taking her side? There are no sides, Veronica said firmly. There's just what happened. And what happened was your family spent an entire dinner belittling someone's professional accomplishments without knowing anything about them. That's not teasing. That's bullying. Bullying? Patricia gasped. How dare you? We are not bullies. Then what would you call it? Veronica challenged. You mocked her work. You suggested she was a burden on your son. You apologized to me for her presence at the table. If someone did that to Damien, what would you call it? Patricia opened her mouth and closed it again, unable to answer. I think you should leave, Gerald said to Veronica, his voice cold. This is a family matter. I'm about to be family, Veronica said. And if this is how you treat family, I'm not sure I want to be. The words hung in the air like a grenade with the pin pulled. Damien's face went white. You don't mean that, he said. Veronica turned to look at him. Her expression was sad. I don't know yet. But I need time to think about whether I want to join a family that treats people this way. We don't treat people this way, Patricia protested. Naomi is just different. She's difficult. No, I said quietly. I'm inconvenient. I don't fit your vision of what Trevor's wife should be. I have ambitions that don't center around your family. I have success that makes you uncomfortable. That's not the same as being difficult. You have a very high opinion of yourself, Gerald said. I have an accurate opinion of my work, I corrected. You're the ones who decided that confidence was arrogance. Trevor reached for my arm. I stepped back before he could touch me. The movement was instinctive and I saw hurt flash across his face. Naomi, please. Can we just go home and talk about this privately? What is there to talk about? I asked. Everything. Our marriage. How we move forward. Move forward? I looked at him carefully. Do you even want to move forward? Or do you just want things to go back to how they were before tonight? He hesitated. That hesitation told me everything. I want my wife back, he said finally. You never had me, I said. Not really. You had the version of me that made you comfortable. The small version. The quiet version. The version that didn't threaten your sense of superiority. But that was never really me. That's not true, he said, but his voice lacked conviction. Isn't it? Tell me one thing about my real life, Trevor. One true thing about who I actually am and what I actually care about. He stared at me. I know you care about your work. That's not enough. That's not even close to enough. A taxi pulled up to the curb. A couple got out, laughing together, heading into the restaurant. They looked happy. They looked like people who saw each other. I watched them go and felt something settle in my chest. A decision I hadn't realized I was making. I'm going to get a hotel room tonight, I said. What? No. Come home. We need to talk. We've been talking for 6 years, I said. I'm tired of talking to someone who doesn't hear me. I hear you now, Trevor said desperately. Do you? Or do you just hear the dollar amount? If Veronica hadn't been at that dinner, if she hadn't recognized my company, would anything be different? Would you suddenly care about my work? He didn't answer. Couldn't answer. I pulled out my phone and ordered a car. It would arrive in 3 minutes. Naomi, please, Patricia said. She had switched tactics, her voice soft now, pleading. Let's not make rash decisions. You're upset. You're emotional. Come back inside. We'll order more wine. We'll start over. I don't want to start over, I said. I want to start fresh. What does that mean? Trevor asked. I met his eyes. It means I'm done pretending. Done making myself small. Done living with people who don't see me. You're talking about divorce? Gerald said flatly. I'm talking about freedom, I corrected. A black car pulled up. My ride. I moved toward it. If you get in that car, Trevor said, his voice taking on a hard edge, don't expect me to be waiting when you decide to come back. I stopped. Turned to look at him. Is that supposed to scare me? The threat of losing something I never really had. His face crumpled. Just for a moment I saw real pain there. But it wasn't pain at losing me. It was pain at losing the image of his life. The picture-perfect marriage. The successful lawyer with the quiet wife. The comfortable lie he'd been living. We're supposed to be a team, he said. Teams require both people to show up, I said. You checked out years ago. You just didn't bother to tell me. I got into the car. Through the window I could see all of them standing on the sidewalk. Gerald angry. Patricia shocked. Damien confused. Trevor devastated. Veronica watching it all with sad, knowing eyes. Where to? The driver asked. I gave him the address of a hotel downtown. A nice one. The kind of place I could afford now that I didn't have to pretend I couldn't. As we pulled away from the curb, I looked back one last time. They were still standing there, frozen in place like characters in a painting. The family dinner that imploded. The night everything changed. I turned forward and didn't look back again. My phone buzzed. A text from Veronica. If you need anything, call me. I mean it. Also, I'm seriously reconsidering this engagement. Is your company hiring? I might need a new job after tonight. Despite everything, I smiled. Then another text came through. This one from Tandy. Boss, I'm seeing some weird charges on the company card. Did you book a hotel room? Are you okay? Should I be worried? I texted back. I'm fine. Long story. Tell you Monday. Okay, but if you need me to come get you with bail money or a getaway car, I'm available. No bail money needed. Just some space to think. Thinking is good. Also breathing. Remember to do both. I laughed out loud. The driver glanced at me in the rearview mirror but didn't comment. At the hotel, I checked in using my own credit card. My own money. Money I had earned building something real and valuable in mine. The room was on the 15th floor with a view of the city. I stood at the window and looked out at the lights. My phone rang. Trevor. I sent it to voicemail. He called again. Voicemail again. On the third call, I turned off my phone. I ordered room service. Expensive room service. Champagne and dessert and things I wanted without asking anyone's permission or opinion. I ate slowly, tasting everything, enjoying the silence. When I finally went to bed, I slept better than I had in years. No one breathing beside me. No one there who didn't see me. Just space. Just peace. Just possibility. The next morning, I woke up early. Habit from years of early meetings and full schedules. I made coffee in the room's small machine and sat by the window watching the city wake up. My phone was still off. I knew when I turned it on there would be messages. Calls from Trevor. Texts from his family. Maybe angry ones. Maybe apologetic ones. It didn't matter. None of it could change what I now knew. I had been living a lie. A comfortable lie, maybe. A socially acceptable lie. But a lie nonetheless. The question was what came next. Where did I go from here? How did I rebuild a life that had just exploded? I thought about my company. About the office I would go to on Monday. About Tandy and the rest of my team. About the work that mattered to me. About the success I had built without anyone's help or approval. That part of my life was solid. That part made sense. It was the rest that needed figuring out. I turned on my phone. 23 missed calls. 37 text messages. I scrolled through them quickly. Trevor, please come home. We need to talk. Trevor, I'm sorry. I should have listened better. Trevor, you can't just leave like this. Trevor, my parents are upset. You owe them an apology. That last one made me laugh. After everything, he thought I owed them an apology. There were texts from Patricia, from Gerald, from Damien. All variations of the same theme. Come back. Stop overreacting. Think about the family. The family. Always the family. Never me. There was one text from Veronica. I broke off the engagement this morning. Couldn't stop thinking about how they treated you. How Damien let them. If that's who they are when they think no one important is watching, that's who they really are. Thank you for the clarity. Also, seriously, that investment proposal still stands if you want to talk business. I stared at that text for a long time. Veronica had ended her engagement because of what she saw at that dinner. Because watching them treat me badly showed her something about the family she was about to marry into. I texted back. I'm sorry about your engagement. Her response came quickly. Don't be. You saved me from making a huge mistake. Coffee next week? No business. Just two people who survived the worst family dinner ever. Deal. I took a shower. Got dressed. Looked at myself in the mirror. I looked tired but somehow lighter. Like I had been carrying weight I didn't know about and had finally set it down. My phone rang. This time it was my mother. I answered. Baby, what happened? She asked. Trevor's been calling your father all morning. He says you left him. I left a hotel restaurant, I corrected. But yeah, I'm thinking about leaving the marriage too. Oh, thank God, my mother said. I blinked. What? Naomi, your father and I have been waiting for you to see it for years. That man doesn't appreciate you. His family treats you terribly. We kept hoping you would wake up. You never said anything. Would you have listened? You had to figure it out yourself. She was right. I probably wouldn't have listened. I had been so invested in making the marriage work, in proving I could be good enough for them. I'm proud of you, my mother said. For building your company. For finally standing up for yourself. For being strong enough to walk away from people who don't deserve you. My throat tightened. I don't know what comes next. Nobody does, baby. That's the exciting part. After we hung up, I sat on the edge of the hotel bed and let myself feel everything. The grief of a marriage ending. The anger at years wasted. The fear of uncertainty. The relief of finally seeing clearly. The hope of possibility. All of it at once. All of it real. Then I stood up. Got my laptop. Started making lists. Things to do. People to call. Decisions to make. Starting with calling my lawyer cousin Rochelle. Because if I was going to do this, I was going to do it right. The old Naomi would have waited. Would have tried to fix things. Would have given Trevor and his family another chance to prove they could change. But that Naomi was gone. She had died somewhere between the restaurant and this hotel room. The new Naomi knew her worth. Knew what she deserved. And knew that sometimes the bravest thing you can do is walk away from people who refuse to see you. I picked up my phone and started dialing. There was work to be done. A life to rebuild. A future to create. And for the first time in 6 years I was excited about all of it. I spent 3 days at that hotel. 3 days of room service and quiet and space to think. 3 days of turning off my phone for hours at a time and only checking messages when I felt strong enough to handle them. 3 days of slowly realizing that the life I thought I wanted had been built on foundation of trying to be someone I wasn't. On day 2 I called Rochelle. My cousin was a divorce attorney, sharp and no-nonsense, with natural hair she wore in beautiful twists and a blue suit that matched her confidence. We met in the hotel bar. It was mid-afternoon, nearly empty except for a few business travelers on laptops. You look good, Rochelle said, sliding into the booth across from me. Better than I expected. What were you expecting? Tears. Breakdown. The usual post-traumatic response to family disaster. I cried the first night, I admitted. But not as much as I thought I would. Mostly I just felt relieved. Rochelle pulled out a legal pad and pen. Tell me everything. Start at the beginning. I told her about the dinner. About 6 years of dismissal and condescension. About Trevor's silence in the face of his family's cruelty. About Veronica recognizing my company and the look on everyone's faces when they realized who I actually was. Rochelle took notes, her expression growing darker as I talked. "They're garbage people," she said when I finished. "I've been wanting to say that for years." "You met them twice." "Twice was enough. The first time was at your wedding when Trevor's mother asked me if I was a friend from work, even though I was clearly sitting on your family's side wearing a bridesmaid dress. The second time was at that Christmas party where Trevor's dad spent 20 minutes telling me about his cleaning lady like I would have something in common with her because we're both black women." I winced. I had forgotten about that. "The point is," Rochelle continued, "I've been waiting for you to wake up. So now that you're awake, what do you want to do?" "Divorce him," I said. The words came out easier than I expected. "Okay, good. Do you own property together?" "The house is in both names. I've been paying half the mortgage for 5 years." "Kids?" "No." "Shared bank accounts?" "One joint account for household expenses. But I have my own accounts for my business and personal use. The company is entirely mine. I own 92% of it outright." Rochelle whistled low. "How much is the company worth?" "Last valuation was $2.3 billion. Her pen stopped moving. She looked up at me. "I'm sorry, did you say billion with a B?" "Yes." "Naomi." She set down her pen. "Why didn't you tell me this before?" I tried. "You asked about my work last year at Thanksgiving. I said we just closed a major round of contracts. You said, 'That's nice,' and started talking about your new apartment." Rochelle closed her eyes. "I'm as bad as they are." "You're not," I said quickly. "You didn't know because I didn't push. I learned to stop talking about things people didn't want to hear. That's not okay. I should have asked better questions. I should have listened. I'm sorry." "You're listening now," I pointed out. She picked up her pen again. "Okay. So here's the situation. California is a community property state. Anything acquired during the marriage is split 50-50 unless there's a prenup or clear separate property." My stomach dropped. "He could go after my company?" "He could try. But if you can prove the company existed before the marriage and was built primarily with your separate funds and effort, you have a strong case for keeping it as separate property." "When exactly did you start Beacon Tech Solutions?" "The initial framework was my master's thesis. I incorporated the company officially 2 months before we got married." "That's good. Very good. And the funding?" "I used my own savings, student loans, credit cards. Trevor never contributed financially. He didn't even know the real scope of the company until 3 days ago." Rochelle made rapid notes. "Did you use any joint funds for business expenses?" "No. I was careful about that. My accountant can verify everything." "What about the house?" "We bought it 4 years ago. Put down 20%. We've both been making mortgage payments from our individual accounts into the joint account. So you're entitled to your share of the equity." "That's straightforward." Rochelle looked up. "The company is where things could get messy. Trevor could argue that even though you founded it before marriage, it grew significantly during the marriage and he's entitled to some of that growth." "Based on what?" "He never helped. Never contributed. Never even understood what the company did. Based on the legal theory that marital support allows one spouse to build a business. He'll argue that he provided a stable home, emotional support, the foundation that allowed you to focus on growing your company." I laughed. It came out sharp and bitter. "Emotional support." "Right. The emotional support of having my work mocked constantly. Of having my success dismissed. Of being told I should give up and join the junior league." "I believe you," Rochelle said gently. "But a court might see it differently. Especially if he gets a good lawyer, which he will because his father runs a law firm." "So what do I do?" "We document everything. Every dismissive comment. Every time he failed to support you. Every instance of his family's treatment. We build a case that not only did he not contribute to your success, he actively tried to undermine it." "Will that work?" "It should. Especially given that the company was already established before marriage and you can prove all funding came from separate sources." "But Naomi, this could get ugly. His family won't go down easy. They'll fight." "Let them fight," I said. "I'm done making things easy for people who don't respect me." Rochelle smiled. "There's my cousin. I was wondering when she'd show up." We spent another hour going over details. Assets, debts, timelines, documentation I would need to gather. By the time we finished, I had a clear picture of what the next months would look like. It wasn't going to be pleasant. But it was going to be necessary. "One more thing," Rochelle said as we were getting ready to leave. "Have you talked to Trevor since that night?" "No. He's called and texted constantly. So has his family. I haven't responded." "Don't." Not until we have a plan in place. The first conversation you have with him should be with me present. Anything you say can and will be used against you in divorce proceedings. That sounds ominous. It's realistic. Right now he's probably oscillating between guilt and anger. Give him a few days to land on anger and he'll start talking to lawyers. We need to be prepared before that happens. His father is a lawyer. Exactly. Gerald will advise him. And Gerald just found out his daughter-in-law is worth billions. He's going to see dollar signs. The thought made me feel sick. But Rochelle was probably right. On day 3 at the hotel I went back to work. Not to the office, not yet. But I set up my laptop at the desk and started returning emails. Started addressing the backlog of decisions that had piled up. Started stepping back into the part of my life that made sense. Tandy video called within minutes of seeing me online. "Boss," she said, her face filling my screen. "Where have you been?" "Long story. Family drama." "Are you okay?" "I'm getting there." "Do I need to hurt someone?" "Because I will. I've been taking kickboxing classes." I smiled despite myself. "No violence necessary. But I appreciate the offer." "What happened?" I gave her the short version. The dinner. The revelation. Trevor's ignorance. The hotel room. When I finished, Tandy was quiet for a moment. Then she said, "You know what's funny?" "What?" "Everyone in this company knows you. Really knows you. We know you take your coffee black with 1 sugar. We know you hate meetings before 9 in the morning. We know you stress-eat pretzels when you're working through a tough problem. We know you cry at animal shelter commercials and laugh at terrible puns. We know you." Her words hit harder than I expected. "Yeah. Your husband didn't know any of that, did he?" "No. That's not a marriage, boss. That's just 2 people living in the same house." She was right. She was so completely right. "How's the Johnson medical contract looking?" I asked, changing the subject before I started crying again. "Ready for signature. Also, we got an inquiry from a hospital system in Texas. Big one. 15 locations. They want a proposal by end of month. Send me the details. I'll work on it this weekend." "You sure you don't want to take some time off? Process everything?" "Work is processing," I said honestly. "This is the part of my life that makes sense." After we hung up, I spent the rest of the day immersed in work. Reviewing contracts. Responding to client questions. Planning expansion strategies. The familiar rhythm of it was comforting. Here I knew who I was. Here I had value that no one questioned. That evening I finally turned on my phone and read through all the messages I had been avoiding. Trevor had sent 23 texts over 3 days. The progression was telling. Day 1, "Please come home. I'm sorry. We need to talk." Day 2, "This is ridiculous. You're overreacting. Call me back." Day 3, "I spoke to my father. He says you're not entitled to leave like this. Community property rights work both ways." There it was. Rochelle had predicted it perfectly. Trevor had moved from guilt to anger to legal threats in 72 hours. I felt nothing reading those messages. No sadness. No anger. Just a clinical interest in how predictable it all was. Patricia had sent a long email. I almost deleted it without reading, but curiosity won. "Naomi, I don't know what's gotten into you, but this behavior is completely unacceptable. You've humiliated our family. You've upset Trevor terribly. You've caused Damien to lose his fiancée. All because you couldn't handle a little constructive criticism. We were only trying to help you see reality. Yes, perhaps we underestimated your little business, but that's no reason to blow up your marriage and destroy family harmony. I expect you to come home, apologize to everyone, and work on being a better wife and family member. This is your last chance to make things right before you permanently damage your relationship with this family. Patricia." I read it twice. Then I forwarded it to Rochelle with a note. "Document this." There was one message I hadn't expected. From Veronica. "I meant what I said about coffee. I'd really like to talk, not about business, just as 2 people who survived something bizarre. Also, I want to apologize properly for not speaking up sooner at that dinner. I should have shut them down the moment they started. My silence was complicity. I'm sorry. Let me know if you want to meet. No pressure." I stared at that message for a long time. Veronica had broken off her engagement. She had walked away from Damien and his family because of what she saw that night. That took courage. I texted back, "Coffee sounds good. Thursday morning? There's a place near my office." Her response was immediate. "Perfect. Send me the address." On day 4, I checked out of the hotel. I couldn't hide forever. At some point, I needed to face my actual life. But I wasn't ready to go back to the house I shared with Trevor. Not yet. Instead, I drove to my office. It was Saturday, so the building was mostly empty. I used my key card to get in, took the elevator to the third floor where Beacon Tech Solutions occupied half the space. The lobby looked exactly how I remembered designing it. Clean lines. The water feature Veronica had mentioned. Our logo in brushed steel. Everything professional and polished in mine. I walked through the quiet office, past desks where my employees would sit on Monday, past the conference room where we held client meetings, past the break room with the fancy coffee machine I had bought because I believed in treating my team well. This was real. This was what I had built. This was success that no one could dismiss or minimize or claim wasn't real. I ended up in my office, a corner space with windows overlooking the city. I sat in my chair and looked out at the view. My phone rang. Trevor. I let it go to voicemail. He called again. Voicemail again. Then a text. I'm at your office. I saw your car in the parking garage. Come down or I'm coming up. I felt a flash of anger. This was my space. He had no right to invade it. But avoiding him wouldn't make him go away. At some point, we needed to have this conversation. I went downstairs. Trevor was standing in the lobby, looking around at the space like he was seeing it for the first time. Which, of course, he was. Nice place, he said when he saw me. His tone was flat, emotionless. What do you want, Trevor? I want to talk to my wife. We don't have anything to talk about. We have 6 years of marriage to talk about. You can't just throw that away because of one bad dinner. It wasn't one bad dinner, I said. It was 6 years of bad dinners. 6 years of being dismissed. 6 years of being invisible. That dinner was just the moment I finally saw it clearly. You're being dramatic, he said. The same thing his father had said. I'm being honest. Fine. You want honesty? Here's honesty. You humiliated me. You made me look like an idiot in front of my family and my brother's fiancé. You walked out of dinner like a child having a tantrum. You've been hiding in a hotel for 3 days instead of coming home and working through this like an adult. I stared at him. That's what you think happened? I humiliated you. Yes. Not that your family humiliated me for hours? Not that you sat there silent while they tore apart everything I've built? Not that you've spent 6 years not knowing or caring about my actual life? I cared, he insisted. No, you didn't. You cared about having a wife who didn't make waves. Who fit into your family. Who made you look good. You never cared about me. That's not true. Then tell me something about me, I challenged. Anything real. What do I dream about? What am I afraid of? What makes me happy? What do I want from life? He stared at me. This isn't fair. Exactly, I said quietly. You don't know. You never asked. You never wanted to know. So that's it. His voice rose. You're just giving up? Walking away from our marriage because I didn't ask the right questions? I'm walking away because there's nothing to walk away from. We don't have a marriage, Trevor. We have a legal arrangement. 2 people sharing a house and a last name. That's all it's ever been. My father says you're not entitled to half of everything, he said, and I watched his face change, watched calculation replace emotion. The company was built during our marriage. Community property laws apply. You owe me. There it was. The real reason he had come. I don't owe you anything, I said. We'll see what a judge says. Yeah, I agreed. We will. He moved closer, trying to use his height to intimidate me. It might have worked once. Not anymore. You think you can just leave me? Leave my family? After everything we did for you? Everything you did for me? I repeated. What exactly did you do? What did your family do besides make me feel worthless? We gave you a place in society. Connections. Status. Without us, you'd still be some nobody with a computer hobby. I laughed. I actually laughed. Trevor, I have 18 hospital systems depending on me to protect patient data. I have 37 employees who respect my leadership. I have a company worth billions. What do you have? A job at your daddy's law firm that you got through nepotism. A family name that matters to no one outside your bubble. Status based on nothing you actually built yourself. His face went red. You're going to regret this. No, I said calmly. I really don't think I will. He turned and walked out. The door closed behind him with a heavy thud. I stood in the lobby of my company, my actual achievement, and felt lighter than I had in years. My phone buzzed. Rochelle. Trevor just called his father. Gerald called me. They want to meet. They're going to fight this. Let them, I said. You sure you're ready for this? It's going to get nasty. I looked around at the office I had built. At the success I had achieved despite everyone telling me I couldn't. At the life I had created through my own intelligence and determination and refusal to give up. "I'm ready," I said. And I spent that weekend at my parents' house. Not because I needed to hide, but because I needed to remember who I was before Trevor. Before his family. Before 6 years of making myself smaller. My mother made my favorite foods. My father sat with me in his workshop while he fixed an old clock, the two of us comfortable in silence. They didn't press me for details. They just gave me space to breathe. On Sunday evening, my mother found me sitting on the back porch watching the sun set. "You want to talk about it?" she asked, settling into the chair next to mine. "Not really." "Okay. Want to hear about your Aunt Louise's new boyfriend?" I smiled. "Is this the one who collects porcelain dolls?" "Different one. This one breeds snakes." "That's worse. Much worse." We sat quietly for a while. Then my mother said, "Your father and I always knew you'd be someone. Even when you were little. You had this way of looking at problems like they were puzzles waiting to be solved. You'd get so focused you'd forget to eat." "I still do that." "I know. Tandy emails me when she's worried you're not taking care of yourself." I turned to look at her. "Tandy emails you? Someone has to make sure you're eating. You hired an assistant who understands that, boss. She checks in once a month. Tells me if you're overdoing it." I didn't know whether to be touched or mortified. "That's invasive." "That's love," my mother corrected. "You have people who care about you. Who see you. Who know you. That Trevor boy never deserved you. You should have said something." Would you have listened? Probably not. I had been so determined to make the marriage work. So convinced that if I just tried harder, gave more, shrunk smaller, it would all be fine. "I wasted 6 years," I said. "You didn't waste anything. You built an incredible company during those years. You became the person you were meant to be. You learned what you don't want. That's not waste. That's growth." "I feel stupid," I admitted, "for not seeing it sooner. Baby, we all make mistakes in love. We all stay too long in situations that hurt us. The important thing is you're leaving now. You're choosing yourself. That takes courage." "It doesn't feel courageous. It feels scary." Courage is doing the right thing even when it's scary. Especially when it's scary. My phone buzzed. A text from Rochelle. "Meeting with Trevor's lawyer tomorrow at 10. You don't have to attend, but I recommend it. Show strength. Show you're not hiding." I texted back. "I'll be there." My mother read over my shoulder. "That's tomorrow. You should get some rest." "I won't be able to sleep." "Try anyway. You need your strength for what's coming." She was right. The next months would be brutal. Divorce was never clean, especially when money was involved. Especially when one party felt humiliated and wanted revenge. That night, I lay in my childhood bed and stared at the ceiling. This room held so many memories. Late nights studying for exams. Early mornings getting ready for school. Hours spent coding my first programs on an old computer my father had bought at a garage sale. This was where I had dreamed of building something big. Something that mattered. Something that would change how healthcare data was protected. I had done it. Despite everyone who doubted me. Despite a husband who didn't believe in me. Despite a family who saw me as a failure. I had actually done it. The next morning I dressed carefully. A blue suit, tailored and professional. My hair pulled back neatly. Minimal jewelry. I looked like the CEO I was. Like someone who knew her worth. Rochelle met me outside the law office. It was a modern building downtown, all glass and steel. Gerald's firm occupied 3 floors. "You ready?" Rochelle asked. "As ready as I'll ever be. Remember, stay calm. Don't let them provoke you. Don't answer questions I tell you not to answer. And if it gets bad, we leave. You don't owe them anything." We rode the elevator up to the 15th floor. The receptionist directed us to a conference room. Large table. Leather chairs. Walls of law books that probably no one ever read. Gerald was already there with another lawyer, a thin man in an expensive suit. Trevor sat next to them looking miserable. He wouldn't meet my eyes. "Naomi," Gerald said, standing. His voice was falsely jovial. "Good of you to come. Let's settle this like civilized people, shall we?" I sat down across from him. Rochelle sat next to me, her notepad ready. "Let's start with the house," Gerald began. "Clearly that needs to be sold. Proceeds split evenly." "Fine," I said. I didn't care about the house. It had never felt like home anyway. "Now regarding the business," Gerald continued, and I saw the gleam in his eye. "As we understand it, Beacon Tech Solutions was founded shortly before your marriage and grew substantially during the marriage. California law is clear on this. Community property rules apply. My son is entitled to half the company's current value. Rochelle spoke before I could. The company was incorporated 2 months before the marriage using funds from Ms. Harper's separate property. She can document every investment, every loan, every source of capital. None of it came from marital funds. But the growth happened during the marriage, Gerald argued. Trevor provided the support system that allowed her to build this company. He's entitled to compensation. What support? I asked. Gerald looked at me. Excuse me? What support did Trevor provide? Emotional support? Is that what you call sitting silent while your family insulted me for 6 years? Financial support? I paid half of everything and funded my company myself. Practical support? He didn't know where my office was. So tell me, what exactly did he support? He provided a stable home, Gerald said. A foundation. A foundation built on contempt, I said. That's not support. That's tolerance at best. You're being emotional, the other lawyer said. His name was Richard something. I hadn't bothered to learn his last name. I'm being factual, I corrected. Trevor never contributed to my company. Not money. Not time. Not even belief. He actively dismissed my work. His family mocked it constantly. That's the opposite of support. Nevertheless, Gerald said, the law is on our side. We're willing to be reasonable. We'll settle for 40% of the company's value. That's $920 million. Transfer that to Trevor and we'll call it even. I almost laughed. No. Naomi, Trevor said, speaking for the first time. Be reasonable. I'm your husband. I deserve something. Based on what? I asked him directly. What did you ever do to deserve any part of what I built? I was there, he said weakly. Being present isn't the same as being supportive. Being in the same house isn't the same as being a partner. I gave you 6 years, he said, and there was anger in his voice now. I gave you 6 years too, I said. 6 years of trying to be who you wanted. 6 years of making myself small. 6 years of ignoring the fact that you didn't actually care about me. I'm not paying you for the privilege of being disrespected in my own marriage. This is exactly the kind of attitude that makes negotiation impossible, Richard said. Ms. Harper, we're trying to resolve this amicably. But if you force us to go to court, things will get very unpleasant. I'm okay with unpleasant, I said. Rochelle put a hand on my arm. My client is willing to split marital assets equitably. The house, the shared bank account, anything purchased during the marriage with joint funds. But Beacon Tech Solutions is separate property. It was founded before the marriage, funded entirely with separate funds, and built without any contribution from your client. We dispute that, Gerald said. We have evidence that suggests otherwise. What evidence? Rochelle asked sharply. Gerald pulled out a folder. We have testimony from family members that Naomi often worked from home, using utilities and resources paid for with marital funds. We have evidence that Trevor frequently drove her to meetings or picked her up, providing transportation support. We have statements that he offered emotional support and encouragement, which contributed to her success. I stared at him. You're making that up. It's all documented, Gerald said smoothly. Trevor drove me to exactly 3 meetings in 6 years. All because my car was in the shop. He complained about it every time. And emotional support? He told me last week that he thought I was exaggerating about my success. He said he thought I was inflating things. Trevor's face went red. I didn't mean it like that. How did you mean it? He didn't answer. Let's take a break, Rochelle said. Give everyone time to cool down. Agreed, Richard said. We left the conference room. Rochelle pulled me into an empty office down the hall. They're going to fight dirty, she said. Gerald's fabricating support claims. They'll probably try to prove you used marital resources to build the company. I didn't. I can document everything. I know. But documentation takes time to review. And they'll drag this out as long as possible, running up legal fees, trying to pressure you into settling. I'm not settling. Not even a little. A few million to make this go away. Not $1, I said firmly. If I give them anything, I'm validating their claim that they deserve it. That Trevor contributed somehow. He didn't. He never did. And I won't pay him to go away. Rochelle studied me. Okay. Then we fight. But Naomi, this could take years. Could cost hundreds of thousands in legal fees. It could get very, very ugly. I don't care. You might care when they start digging into your personal life. When they try to make you look bad in court. When they bring up every argument, every fight, every mistake. Let them, I said. I have nothing to hide. My company is legitimate. My success is real. And anyone who looks at the evidence will see that Trevor contributed nothing. We went back to the conference room. Gerald had that satisfied look of someone who thinks he's winning. We have a counter-proposal, Rochelle said. Ms. Harper will agree to split the house proceeds 50-50. She'll split the joint bank account 50-50. She'll also agree to pay Mr. Thompson a settlement of $100,000 in recognition of 6 years of marriage. 100,000? Gerald laughed. That's insulting. It's generous, Rochelle countered, given that Mr. Thompson contributed nothing to the asset in question. But Ms. Harper is willing to acknowledge the years of marriage with a settlement. That's her final offer. Absolutely not, Gerald said. We want at least 10% of the company. That's $230 million. Then we'll see you in court, Rochelle said, standing up. I stood too. Trevor looked panicked. Wait, he said. Just wait. Can we talk about this? No, I said simply. You had 6 years to talk to me. To see me. To care about what I was building. You chose not to. Now you want to benefit from something you never supported? It doesn't work that way. This isn't fair, he said. You're right, I agreed. It's not fair. It wasn't fair when your family spent years treating me like a failure. It wasn't fair when you sat silent while they insulted me. It wasn't fair when you admitted you thought I was exaggerating my success. None of that was fair. But I'm not letting unfairness determine my future anymore. We'll destroy you in court, Gerald said. His jovial mask was gone. We'll make you look like the villain. Like an ungrateful wife who abandoned her marriage for money. Try it, I said. I'll show the judge every text message where Trevor threatened me. Every email from your wife telling me I owed your family an apology. Every piece of evidence that shows how you all treated me. Let's see how that plays. Gerald's face darkened. You're making a mistake. I've made plenty of mistakes, I said. Marrying your son was one of them. But leaving him isn't. I walked out of that conference room with my head high. Rochelle followed, trying to hide a smile. In the elevator she said, that was either brilliant or catastrophic. Time will tell. I don't care which it is, I said. I'm done being afraid of them. Good, Rochelle said. Because they're going to come at you hard. But Naomi? I've never been more proud of you. My phone buzzed. A text from Veronica. Still on for coffee Thursday? I have so much to tell you about how my week has gone. Spoiler alert, it's been weird. I texted back. Definitely still on. I have stories too. That afternoon I went to my office for real. Not sneaking in on a weekend but walking through the door like the CEO I was. My employees greeted me normally, unaware of the personal drama happening in the background. Tandy met me at my office door. Boss. You good? Getting there. Need me to handle anything? Cancel anything? Hurt anyone? Just need to work. Got that Texas proposal ready? On your desk. Also, we got another inquiry. Hospital system in Oregon. They specifically asked for you by name. By name? By actual name. Naomi Harper. Not Ann Harper. Someone's been talking. I thought about Veronica. About that dinner. About how sometimes the worst moments lead to unexpected connections. Let's set up the meeting, I said. I'm done hiding. That night, I drove to the house I had shared with Trevor. Our house. Soon to be just his house, then no one's house. Just another piece of property to be divided and sold. I needed to get my things. I had been wearing the same few outfits for a week. Living out of a suitcase. That couldn't continue. Trevor's car wasn't there. Good. I didn't want another confrontation. I let myself in. The house was exactly as I had left it. Coffee cups still in the sink from the morning of that dinner. Mail piled on the counter. Everything frozen in time. I went upstairs and started packing. Clothes. Toiletries. The few personal items I cared about. My laptop and files were already at the office. Everything else could be sold with the house. I was loading boxes into my car when Trevor pulled up. He got out slowly, looking exhausted. You're taking your stuff, he said. Yes. Where are you staying? That's not your concern. Naomi. He moved closer. Can we please just talk? Without lawyers. Without my family. Just us. There is no us, Trevor. There hasn't been for a long time. Maybe there never was. I loved you, he said. Did you? Or did you love the idea of me? The version of me that fit into your life without causing problems? He didn't answer. That's what I thought, I said. I loaded the last box, closed the trunk, stood looking at this man I had promised forever to. I hope you find someone who fits your family better, I said. Someone who wants to be small. Someone who's happy being tolerated instead of celebrated. That's not me. It never was. I'm sorry, he said, and for the first time he sounded like he meant it. I'm sorry too. Sorry it took me so long to see clearly. Sorry I wasted 6 years trying to earn respect from people who were never going to give it. Sorry I let myself believe I wasn't enough, when the truth is you were never enough for me. I got in my car, drove away, didn't look back, because looking back meant staying stuck. And I was done being stuck. Thursday morning arrived bright and cold. I met Veronica at a cafe 3 blocks from my office, a small place with good coffee and quiet corners where people could actually talk. She was already there when I arrived, sitting at a corner table with 2 cups of coffee in front of her. I didn't know what you'd want, she said as I sat down. So I got both black and with cream. You can choose. I took the black coffee. Thank you. You didn't have to do that. I wanted to. This whole week has been strange and I needed someone to talk to who might understand. Tell me, I said. She took a breath. I broke up with Damien. I told you that already. But what I didn't tell you was how his family reacted. Let me guess. They blamed you. Worse. They blamed you. Gerald called me personally to explain that you had poisoned me against their wonderful family. Patricia sent me flowers with a note saying she hoped I would reconsider once I got away from your negative influence. I almost laughed. My negative influence. Right? As if I don't have a mind of my own. As if watching them tear apart someone for hours didn't show me exactly who they are. I'm sorry you lost your relationship because of that dinner. Don't be. You didn't make me leave Damien. That dinner just showed me what I would have seen eventually. His family is cruel and he's complicit in that cruelty. By staying silent, I would have married into that. I would have spent holidays with people who think mocking others is entertainment. You saved me. That's generous. It's true. I've been thinking about it all week. About how easily they dismissed you. How comfortable they were being cruel. And the thing is, they didn't even think they were being cruel. They thought they were being helpful. Offering guidance. That's almost worse. It is worse, I agreed. Mean people who know they're mean can sometimes change. People who think their cruelty is kindness never do. We sat quietly for a moment, sipping coffee. Can I ask you something? Veronica said. Sure. Why did you keep your identity private for so long? Harper instead of Naomi Harper. No photos. No interviews. I've been in venture capital for 8 years and I've never seen a founder guard their privacy so carefully. I thought about how to answer. Multiple reasons. Partly it's practical. When people see a young black woman, they make assumptions. They doubt. They question whether I really know what I'm talking about. When they just see results, see the company's success, they have to take it seriously first. That's depressing. That's reality. But there's another reason too. I didn't want my personal life connected to my company. I didn't want clients reading articles about my marriage or my family. I wanted Beacon Tech to stand on its own merit. Smart, Veronica said. But also lonely. Yes, I admitted. Also lonely. Is that why you stayed with Trevor so long? Because keeping your identity separate meant you couldn't talk to anyone about what you were actually dealing with? I hadn't thought about it that way. But she was right. I had been so careful to keep my professional and personal lives separate that I had ended up isolated in both. Maybe, I said. I didn't realize I was doing it. But yeah, maybe that was part of it. For what it's worth, Veronica said, I think what you've built is incredible. Not just the company, though that's impressive. But the way you handled that dinner. The way you stood up for yourself. I've been in 100 business meetings and I've never seen anyone handle confrontation with that much grace. It didn't feel graceful. It was. You were calm and clear. You didn't yell or cry or make a scene. You just stated facts and walked away. That's power. My phone buzzed. A text from Tandy. Boss, do you know why a reporter from Forbes just called asking for a comment about your divorce? How do they even know about it? It's been less than 2 weeks. I showed Veronica the text. She winced. Gerald probably leaked it. He'll want to control the narrative. Make you look bad before you can make him look bad. Can he do that? He's a lawyer. He knows how to work the press. I texted Tandy back. No comment to any reporters. If they call again, refer them to our PR firm. Veronica was watching me. You okay? I'm fine. I expected this. Rochelle warned me it would get ugly. How ugly are we talking? Full court battle. Gerald's claiming Trevor contributed to my company's success. They want 40% of the current value. Veronica's eyes went wide. That's almost $1 billion. Yeah. They're delusional. They're desperate. And angry. And Gerald's used to winning. Are you scared? I thought about it. Was I scared? Part of me was. The part that worried about public perception, about negative press, about months or years of legal battles. But another part of me, the part that had built a multi-billion-dollar company from nothing, the part that had survived 6 years of being diminished, that part wasn't scared at all. Not scared, I said. Just tired. Tired of fighting people who should have been on my side. Tired of defending my right to exist and succeed. You shouldn't have to defend that. I know. But here we are. We talked for another hour. About business. About life. About what it meant to be women in tech, women of color in spaces that weren't built for us, women who succeeded anyway. When we finally got up to leave, Veronica hesitated. Can I ask you something else? Of course. That investment proposal. I know this probably isn't the right time, but I meant it. If you're ever interested in discussing partnership with Harrison Ventures, I would love to talk. Real talk. Professional talk. Not ambush at family dinner talk. I smiled. I'll think about it. Once this divorce mess is settled. Fair enough. We exchanged actual phone numbers. Made plans to meet again. It felt strange making a friend out of what should have been a disaster. But sometimes the best things came from the worst situations. Walking back to my office, I felt lighter. Like talking to someone who understood, had released pressure I didn't know I was carrying. Tandy was waiting for me with a concerned expression. Boss, we need to talk about this Forbes thing. I did some digging. The reporter who called is known for writing hit pieces. Someone definitely fed them information. What kind of information? Questions about whether Beacon Tech is stable. Whether personal drama is affecting your leadership. Whether the company can survive if you're distracted by divorce proceedings. I sat down at my desk. Gerald's trying to tank my company. Looks like it. But boss, here's the thing. I've been here since day one. I've watched you build this. Your team believes in you. Your clients trust you. One nasty article won't change that. But it could scare potential clients. It could. Or it could backfire on them. Make them look petty and vindictive. She was right. But it still hurt. Gerald wasn't just going after my money. He was going after my reputation. Get me PR on the phone, I said. We need to get ahead of this. The next few weeks were brutal. Just like Rochelle had warned. Forbes did run an article, carefully worded to avoid libel but clearly questioning my stability and leadership. Other publications picked up the story. Tech blogs started speculating about Beacon Tech's future. My PR team went into overdrive. We scheduled interviews with friendly journalists. We released statements from satisfied clients. We showed revenue projections and growth metrics. We made it clear that Beacon Tech Solutions wasn't just one person but a whole team of talented professionals. Through it all, I kept working. Kept meeting with clients. Kept closing deals. Kept building. Because that's what I did. I built things. And no amount of Gerald's maneuvering could change that. 3 weeks after the coffee with Veronica, Rochelle called me into her office. We got the discovery documents from Gerald's team, she said. It's bad. How bad? They're claiming you had an affair. That your work obsession was actually you spending time with another man. They're saying Trevor was the devoted husband who supported you while you cheated. I felt like I'd been punched. That's completely false. I know. But they have text messages. What text messages? Rochelle pulled them up on her computer. Messages between me and Kwame, my head of development. Late-night conversations about code issues. Inside jokes about debugging problems. Professional messages taken out of context to look personal. This is work communication, I said. Kwame and I have never had anything romantic. He's married. He has 2 kids. I believe you. But out of context, these messages could look suspicious to a judge who doesn't understand tech culture. I scrolled through the messages. They were cherry-picked. Every friendly good night, or thanks for staying late highlighted. Every technical conversation removed. They're twisting everything, I said. That's what they do. We'll depose Kwame. Get his testimony. Prove these were work communications. But Naomi, you need to prepare yourself. This is going to be their strategy. Make you look like the bad spouse. Like the one who destroyed the marriage. While ignoring 6 years of their behavior. Exactly. I left Rochelle's office feeling sick. Not because I was guilty of anything but because I was learning how easily truth could be manipulated. That evening, I called a meeting with my senior team. Tandy, Kwame, and 3 others. My core people. You probably know there's been press about my personal life, I said. My divorce is getting complicated. The other side is making things up to try to discredit me. I want to be transparent with all of you. This might get worse before it gets better. If anyone wants to distance themselves from me or from the company until this settles, I understand. No one moved. Boss, Kwame said, we know you. We work with you every day. We know there's nothing inappropriate between us. If they want to twist our work conversations into something else, that's on them. But I'm not going anywhere. Me neither, Tandy said. You built this company. You built this team. We're not abandoning you because your ex-husband's family is trying to cause trouble. The others nodded in agreement. I felt tears threaten. I swallowed them back. Thank you. All of you. We're in this together, Kwame said. That's what teams do. After they left, I sat alone in my office. Outside the window, the city lights were coming on. People going home to their families, their partners, their lives. I went home to an apartment I'd rented temporarily. Empty, quiet, mine. And for the first time in weeks, I felt grateful. Grateful for the team that believed in me. Grateful for the company that gave me purpose. Grateful for the clarity that had come from that terrible dinner. Gerald could try to destroy my reputation. Trevor could claim he deserved my money. Patricia could send passive-aggressive emails about family values. None of it could touch what I had actually built. None of it could diminish what I had achieved. They could fight all they wanted. I would keep building. Because that's who I was. That's who I had always been. And no one could take that away from me. 2 months after I left that dinner, Trevor showed up at my office. Tandy tried to stop him, but he pushed past her into my private office, closing the door behind him. We need to talk, he said. I looked up from my computer. He looked terrible. His hair was messy, his suit wrinkled. He had dark circles under his eyes like he hadn't been sleeping. You can't just show up here, I said calmly. If you want to communicate, do it through our lawyers. I can't afford my lawyers anymore, he said. Do you know how expensive this is? The fees are eating me alive. Then settle. Accept my offer. $100,000? That's nothing. That's insulting. It's generous considering you contributed nothing. He paced across my office, agitated. I'm losing everything. The house is going on the market. My family won't speak to me because they say I should have controlled you better. My career is stalling because all anyone wants to talk about is my divorce. You've ruined my life. I ruined your life? I stood up. Trevor, I spent 6 years trying to build a life with you. You ignored me. Your family insulted me. And now that I'm leaving, you want to play victim? You didn't have to make it so public. You didn't have to embarrass my family. Your family embarrassed themselves. I just stopped pretending it was okay. He slammed his hand on my desk. I didn't flinch. Tandy immediately opened the door, phone in hand, security number pulled up. Is everything okay, boss? She asked. It's fine, I said, keeping my eyes on Trevor. Trevor was just leaving. I'm not leaving until you hear me out, he said. Then I'm calling security, Tandy said. Wait. Trevor held up his hands. Please. Just 5 minutes. I nodded at Tandy. She left but didn't close the door all the way. What do you want? I asked Trevor. I want you to tell the truth. Tell the lawyers that I supported you. That I helped build this company. That I deserve something. I won't lie for you. It's not lying. I was there. I was your husband. That counts for something. Being present isn't the same as being supportive. You know that. He ran his hands through his hair. You're being vindictive. You're punishing me because my family hurt your feelings. Your family didn't hurt my feelings, Trevor. They showed me who they were. And more importantly, you showed me who you were by staying silent. I should have defended you more, he admitted. I know that now. But you never told me how much it bothered you. I shouldn't have had to tell you. Basic respect shouldn't require instructions. What if I testify that I did support you? What if I tell the court about all the times I helped? You'd be committing perjury. And I'd have documentation to prove you're lying. Email chains. Text messages. Calendar records showing you never attended a single company event. Never met a single employee until this disaster started. Never showed any interest in my work. His face fell. So that's it? You're just going to destroy me? I'm not destroying you. I'm refusing to reward you for doing nothing. There's a difference. I loved you, he said, and his voice cracked. You loved the idea of me. The version that fit neatly into your life. But you never loved the real me because you never bothered to know the real me. That's not true. I walked around my desk to face him directly. Tell me my middle name. He stared at me. What? My middle name. If you loved me, you should know it. He opened his mouth, closed it. It's Grace. My middle name is Grace. We've been married for 6 years and you don't know my middle name. That's not fair. Lots of people don't know their spouse's middle name. What's my mother's name? Patricia. That's your mother's name. Mine is Diane. What's my favorite food? Silence. What's my biggest fear? What makes me laugh? What do I dream about when I think about the future? I don't. You don't know. Because you never asked. Because you never cared to know. You were married to your idea of me, not to the actual me. He sank into one of my office chairs. I messed up. Yes. I'm sorry. I know. But sorry doesn't fix 6 years of indifference. Sorry doesn't give me back the time I spent trying to earn your respect. Sorry doesn't make this marriage worth saving. What if I changed? What if I started paying attention now? It's too late, Trevor. Even if you meant it, which I doubt, the foundation is broken. You can't build a marriage on someone finally deciding you're worth noticing after they discover you're successful. That's not love. That's opportunism. So you're just done? No second chance. I gave you 6 years of chances. Every day I tried to connect with you. Every time I shared something about my work and you ignored it. Every family dinner where you stayed silent while they tore me apart. Those were all chances. You used them up. He stood slowly. My father says we're going to win in court. Your father is delusional. He says the judge will see you as an unfaithful wife who abandoned her marriage. Based on fabricated evidence that will fall apart under scrutiny. Trevor, you're going to lose. Not because I'm more powerful or have better lawyers. But because the truth is on my side. I built something real. You did nothing to help. No amount of lying or manipulation will change those facts. You used to be kind, he said quietly. What happened to you? I grew a spine, I said. I stopped accepting scraps and started demanding what I deserve. If that seems like a personality change, it's because you only ever saw the version of me that made you comfortable. I don't even recognize you anymore. Good. Because the person you thought you married never really existed. She was a performance. An attempt to fit into your family. I'm done performing. He walked to the door. Stopped. Turned back. Do you hate me? I thought about it. Did I hate him? Hate required energy, emotion, investment. I felt none of those things. No, I said honestly. I don't hate you. I just don't care about you anymore. And that's worse, isn't it? He left without another word. Tandy appeared immediately. You okay? Yeah. Just tired. He looked rough. He's realizing he's going to lose. That's hard for people who've never lost before. My phone rang. Rochelle. Trevor just left my office building, she said. Security footage shows he was there for 20 minutes. Please tell me you didn't talk to him without me present. He showed up. I handled it. Naomi. I didn't say anything that would hurt our case. I just told him the truth. The truth is often what hurts cases. What did he want? He wanted me to lie. To say he supported me. To give him money he doesn't deserve. And you said? I said no. I said the truth would come out. I said he was going to lose. Rochelle sighed. Okay. Not ideal but not terrible. Just please next time, call me before you have any interaction with him. There won't be a next time. He knows where I stand now. After we hung up, I tried to go back to work. But I couldn't focus. Trevor's visit had stirred up emotions I thought I had processed. Not anger. Not sadness. Just exhaustion. Exhaustion at having to defend my right to leave. Exhaustion at having to prove I deserved what I had built. Exhaustion at fighting people who should have been supporting me from the beginning. I left early. Went back to my apartment. Made dinner. Ate alone. This was my life now. Solitary. Quiet. Mine. Was it lonely? Sometimes. But it was better than being lonely in a marriage. Better than being surrounded by people who didn't see me. My phone buzzed. A text from Veronica. Coffee tomorrow? I have news. I texted back. Sure. Same place. Perfect. 10 a.m. The next morning, I met Veronica at our usual cafe. She looked excited, her eyes bright. What's the news? I asked. I'm starting my own firm. I smiled. Really? Really? I've been thinking about it since the engagement fell apart. Harrison Ventures is a good firm, but I want to build something that reflects my values. I want to invest in founders who are overlooked. Women. People of color. People who build real solutions to real problems. That sounds incredible. I have some investors lined up. I have a business plan. I have a vision. What I don't have is a flagship partner. Someone whose company would give my new firm credibility. She looked at me meaningfully. You want Beacon Tech as your first major investment, I said. I want to offer you partnership. Not just money. Real collaboration. Access to our network. Strategic support. But only if you're interested. Only if it makes sense for you. I thought about it. I had been running Beacon Tech alone for so long. Making every decision. Carrying every burden. Part of me liked the independence. But another part was tired. Tired of doing everything myself. What would partnership look like? I asked. We'd invest capital in exchange for a minority stake. Maybe 15%. You'd keep majority control. But you'd have our resources. Our connections. Our expertise. Why me? Why Beacon Tech? Because you're brilliant. Because your company solves a real problem. Because you've built something that matters. And honestly, because I watched you handle the worst dinner party ever with more grace than I've seen from most people in perfect situations. If you can do that, you can handle anything. I need to think about it. Of course. Take your time. I'm not going anywhere. We talked about other things. Her plans for the new firm. My ongoing divorce battle. The challenges of being women in industries that still didn't always take us seriously. When I got back to my office, Tandy had a message for me. Rochelle called. Urgent. I called her back immediately. Good news, Rochelle said. Trevor's lawyer withdrew from the case. What? Why? Turns out fabricating evidence is frowned upon by the Bar Association. Richard got cold feet. Didn't want to risk his license. So what happens now? Trevor needs to find a new lawyer. Which will take time. And cost money he doesn't have. We're in a strong position. I think he'll have to settle. On our terms? On our terms. I'll reach out to him directly. See if we can resolve this without going to court. After we hung up, I sat at my desk and let the news sink in. This could be over soon. The divorce. The battle. The constant stress of legal proceedings. I could move forward. Build my life. Figure out what came next. That evening I went for a walk. The city was beautiful at dusk, lights coming on, people heading home. I thought about everything that had happened. The dinner that changed everything. The revelation that freed me. The battle that showed me my own strength. I thought about Trevor showing up at my office looking desperate. About Gerald's attempts to destroy my reputation failing. About Patricia's fake concern being exposed as manipulation. I thought about my team standing by me. About clients who trusted my leadership. About Veronica offering real partnership. I thought about the life I had now. Smaller in some ways. No husband. No in-laws. No family gatherings where I had to make myself acceptable. But bigger in the ways that mattered. My company growing. My reputation solid. My sense of self finally strong and clear. I had lost a marriage. But I had gained myself. And that, I realized, was worth everything. 6 months after that dinner, my divorce was finalized. Trevor settled. He took half the house proceeds, the joint bank account, and $50,000. Not the $100,000 I had offered originally, because Rochelle negotiated down when his case fell apart. He signed the papers without argument. Without fight. Without any more attempts to claim he deserved part of my company. I was free. The day the papers were filed, I took myself out for dinner. A nice restaurant. A table by the window. Good wine and better food. I ate slowly, savoring everything, celebrating alone. My phone buzzed halfway through dessert. My mother. Your father and I are so proud of you. Thanks, Mom. Dinner this Sunday? We want to celebrate properly. I'll be there. When I got home that night, I stood in my apartment looking around. I had been here for 6 months and it still felt temporary. Boxes I hadn't unpacked. Walls I hadn't decorated. A life in transition. Tomorrow I would start making it permanent. Making it mine. Building a home that reflected who I actually was instead of who I thought I needed to be. But tonight, I just sat on my couch with a glass of wine and let myself feel everything. Relief. Sadness. Hope. Fear. Joy. All of it mixed together in a complicated mess of emotion. I had survived. I had stood up for myself. I had refused to settle for less than I deserved. And now I got to figure out what came next. The following week, I met with Veronica to discuss partnership. We sat in her new office, still mostly empty, boxes of books waiting to be unpacked. I've thought about your offer, I said. I'm interested. but I want to make sure we're aligned on vision. Tell me your vision, Veronica said. I want Beacon Tech to stay independent, to maintain our culture, to keep making decisions based on what's right for our clients and our employees, not just what's profitable. I wouldn't want to change any of that. That's what makes your company valuable. I also want to expand. Open offices in 3 more cities. Double our team size in the next 2 years. Take on bigger contracts with larger hospital systems. That's ambitious. I'm ambitious. I spent 6 years being told to think smaller. I'm done with that. Veronica smiled. So am I. Let's do this. We spent the next month negotiating terms. My lawyers and her lawyers in endless meetings about equity percentages and board seats and strategic direction. But underneath all the legal language, it was simple. We were 2 women building something. Creating partnership based on mutual respect and shared vision. The announcement went out in September. Veronica's new firm, Catalyst Ventures, had made its first major investment. Beacon Tech Solutions. Strategic partnership. Plans for significant expansion. The tech press loved it. 2 women of color. One building revolutionary healthcare security technology. One creating a new model for venture capital investment. The articles wrote themselves. Forbes, the same publication that had questioned my leadership during the divorce drama, now ran a cover story. The billionaire who built her company in secret. I gave an interview. Talked about the challenges of being underestimated. Talked about building in stealth to avoid bias. Talked about the importance of believing in your own vision when no one else does. I didn't mention Trevor or his family directly. But I talked about what it's like to have people close to you not believe in your capabilities. About the loneliness of success that no one acknowledges. About choosing yourself when everyone else wants you to be smaller. The article went viral. I got messages from thousands of women, sharing their own stories of being dismissed, of building things while being told they couldn't, of choosing to leave relationships and situations where they weren't valued. I couldn't respond to all of them, but I read every single one, and I felt less alone than I had in years. In October, we opened our first new office, Denver. A smaller team to start, but with plans to grow. I flew out for the opening, met the new employees, gave a speech about company values and vision. We protect what matters, I told them. Patient data. Medical privacy. The trust between doctors and patients. That's not just business. That's mission. And everyone in this company, from the newest intern to me, is here because we believe in that mission. They applauded. Young faces full of enthusiasm and hope. I remembered being that young. That optimistic. Before life taught me how hard it would be. But I also remembered pushing through. Building anyway. Succeeding anyway. And I wanted these new employees to know they could do the same. After the opening, I had dinner with the Denver team. They asked questions about company history, about growth plans, about my vision for the future. They treated me like a CEO. Like a leader. Like someone whose opinions mattered. It was such a contrast to family dinners with the Thompsons. Where every word I said was dismissed or mocked. Where my success was treated as luck or exaggeration. Where I had to fight for basic respect. Flying home, I thought about how different my life was now. How much lighter I felt without the weight of trying to make myself acceptable to people who would never truly accept me. In November, I gave a keynote speech at a tech conference. 5,000 people in attendance. The event organizers had been asking for 2 years. I had finally said yes. My topic was building while underestimated. I talked about being young and black and female in tech. About the assumptions people made. About being called aggressive when I was assertive. Being called emotional when I was passionate. Being called lucky when I succeeded through skill and work. I talked about my company. About building it quietly. About choosing privacy to avoid bias. About the strategy of letting my work speak before letting people see who I was. I talked about the dinner. Not naming names. Not pointing fingers. But sharing the story of success that no one recognized because they had already decided I wasn't capable of it. The people closest to you should be your biggest supporters, I said. But sometimes they're your biggest doubters. And when that happens, you have a choice. You can shrink to fit their limited vision of you. Or you can grow beyond their ability to see you. I chose growth. Even when it meant leaving people behind. The applause was thunderous. Standing ovation. Afterwards, dozens of people came up to share their own stories. To say thank you. To say they needed to hear that. A young woman, maybe 23, with bright eyes and nervous energy. I'm in graduate school for computer science. My family keeps asking when I'm going to get a real job. Your story gives me hope. Keep building, I told her. They'll see eventually. And if they don't, you'll find people who do. An older man, probably in his 60s. I've been in tech for 40 years. I've never heard anyone speak about this so honestly. Thank you for your courage. Thank you for listening. Person after person. Each with their own version of being underestimated. Each finding recognition in my story. I stayed until everyone who wanted to talk had talked to me. It was exhausting. It was overwhelming. It was exactly what I needed. In the audience, I had noticed someone. Sitting in the third row, asking thoughtful questions during the Q&A portion. A man about my age, professionally dressed, with an easy smile and intelligent eyes. His question had been about environmental considerations in data center management. Specific. Technical. The kind of question that showed real knowledge. Afterwards he approached me. Naomi Harper. I'm Kwame Edwards. Wait, different Kwame. Not my head of development. This was confusing. Not Kwame from your company, he clarified, reading my expression. Different Kwame. I'm an environmental engineer. I work on sustainable technology solutions. That explains your question about data centers. I've been following Beacon Tech for 2 years. Your approach to security is impressive. But I've also been curious about your environmental footprint. We're carbon neutral, I said. As of last year. His eyebrows rose. Really? That's rare for tech companies your size. It matters. If we're going to build technology that protects people, we should also protect the planet they live on. I like that philosophy. We talked for 20 minutes. About sustainability in tech. About the challenges of balancing growth with environmental responsibility. About the future of green computing. It was easy conversation. He listened when I talked. Asked follow-up questions. Treated me like an equal, not like a celebrity or a billionaire or anything other than a person with interesting ideas. Would you want to get coffee sometime? He asked. I'd love to hear more about how you achieved carbon neutrality. And I have some thoughts on ways to improve efficiency if you're interested. Coffee sounds good, I said. We exchanged numbers. Made tentative plans for the following week. Walking away, I felt something I hadn't felt in a long time. Not attraction exactly, though he was attractive. Not romance, though there might be potential there. Just interest. Curiosity. The possibility of connection with someone who saw me as I actually was. In December, I had coffee with Kwame Edwards. We talked for 3 hours. About work mostly. His projects in sustainable urban development. My company's expansion plans. The intersection of our fields. But also about other things. Books we'd read. Places we'd traveled. Families we'd grown up in. He told me about his parents, both professors, who had encouraged his curiosity from a young age. I told him about mine, who had believed in me even when no one else did. My mother used to say that being underestimated is a superpower, I told him. When people expect nothing from you, you can exceed their expectations just by being yourself. Smart woman. She really is. At the end of coffee, he didn't ask about a second date. He asked if I'd be interested in consulting on one of his projects. A sustainable technology initiative that needed security protocols. We could collaborate, he said. Professionally. I'd like that. We met 3 more times over the next month. Always professional. Always focused on work. But with an undercurrent of something else. Something that felt like possibility. He never asked about my divorce. Never Googled me and brought up my personal drama. Never treated me like a billionaire or a celebrity. Just treated me like Naomi. Like a person with expertise and ideas and value beyond her net worth. It was refreshing. It was different. It was exactly what I didn't know I needed. On Christmas Eve, I had dinner with my parents. Just the 3 of us. Good food, easy conversation, no stress. You look happy, my mother said. I am happy. Happier than I've seen you in years. The last 6 years weren't great, I admitted. No, my father agreed. They weren't. But you're through them now. You're building the life you want. That takes strength. It takes knowing your worth, my mother added. Which you finally do. After dinner, sitting in my childhood living room, I thought about where I had been a year ago. Married to a man who didn't see me. Part of a family that treated me like a burden. Building a company that no one acknowledged. And where I was now. Single. Free. Growing. Building partnerships based on respect. Making friends who valued me. Opening myself to possibilities I hadn't allowed before. I still had hard days. Days when I missed having a partner, even though I didn't miss Trevor specifically. Days when I felt lonely. Days when the freedom felt more like emptiness. But mostly I felt grateful. Grateful for the dinner that broke everything open. Grateful for the revelation that freed me. Grateful for the strength I found to choose myself. The year was ending. A new one was beginning. Full of uncertainty. Full of possibility. Full of life on my own terms. I went home to my apartment that night. It was still mostly bare. Still mostly undecorated. But I had started to make it mine. Pictures on the walls. Books on the shelves. Plants in the windows. It was becoming home. Slowly. Carefully. In ways that felt true to who I actually was. My phone buzzed. A text from Kwame Edwards. Happy holidays. Hope you're enjoying time with family. I'm thinking about that security protocol discussion we had last week. I have some ideas. Coffee in the new year? I smiled and texted back. Coffee sounds perfect. Then another text. From Veronica. Happy Christmas Eve. Thank you for taking a chance on partnership. Best decision I've made this year. Here's to building something great together. I looked at these messages. From people who saw me. Who valued me. Who treated collaboration as mutual respect rather than charity or tolerance. This was what partnership should feel like. This was what friendship should feel like. This was what life should feel like when you weren't trying to shrink yourself to fit someone else's limitations. I poured myself a glass of wine. Stood at my window looking out at the city. Lights everywhere. People in their homes celebrating holidays in whatever way made sense to them. I raised my glass to my reflection in the window. To survival. To growth. To becoming the person I was meant to be all along. To freedom. To finally being enough for myself. 1 year after the dinner that changed everything, I stood on stage at another tech conference. This one was bigger. More prestigious. The kind of event where CEOs and founders shared vision and strategy. My keynote was titled, Building Your Own Table. A year ago, I sat at a dinner table where every person present dismissed my work, my intelligence, and my right to be taken seriously. They had decided who I was without ever really knowing me. And for a long time I accepted their judgment. I tried to prove them wrong by making myself smaller, hoping that if I was small enough, inoffensive enough, quiet enough, they might eventually see my value. The audience was silent. Hundreds of faces watching me. Listening. But here's what I learned. You can't make people see you if they've decided not to. You can't earn respect from people who've already concluded you're not worthy of it. And you can't build a life trying to fit into someone else's narrow vision of who you should be. I talked about Beacon Tech Solutions. About the decision to build in privacy. About the strategy of letting work speak louder than identity. About the moment of revelation at that dinner when everything shifted. When that woman recognized my company, when she dropped her fork and called me by name, something changed. Not just in the room but in me. Because I realized I had been hiding. Not from the world but from people who should have been celebrating me. I had been making myself invisible to make them comfortable. And that stops now. I shared the numbers. Beacon Tech Solutions was now valued at $3.2 billion. We had expanded to 6 cities. We employed 83 people. We protected the medical data of 42 million patients. We had partnerships with 94 hospital systems. None of that happened because someone believed in me first. It happened because I believed in myself. Because I built anyway. Because I refused to let other people's limitations become my ceiling. The applause was strong. But I wasn't finished. I want to talk about what happened after I left that dinner. Because leaving is only the first step. Building a new life is harder. It means sitting with loneliness. It means questioning every choice. It means learning who you are when you're not performing for people who don't really see you. I talked about the divorce. About the attempts to claim my success as community property. About standing firm even when legal fees mounted and the press turned negative. I want to be clear about something. Walking away from people who diminish you is not easy. It's not clean. It's not simple. There will be people who call you difficult, ungrateful, too sensitive. They will say you're overreacting. They will minimize your experience. They will try to make you doubt your own reality. You have to stand firm anyway. A young woman in the front row was wiping her eyes. Several others were nodding. The question I get asked most often is this: how did you know it was time to leave? And my answer is always the same. I knew it was time to leave when I realized I was fighting harder to be seen than they were fighting to see me. When the energy required to maintain the relationship was greater than the value I was receiving from it. When I understood that I was not the problem, their inability to recognize my worth was the problem. I paused. Let that sink in. Building your own table means recognizing when you're not welcome at someone else's. It means having the courage to walk away from spaces that diminish you. It means creating new spaces where your full self is celebrated, not tolerated. It means surrounding yourself with people who don't need you to shrink to feel comfortable. I looked out at the audience. Some of you are sitting at tables right now where you're not valued. Maybe it's a relationship. Maybe it's a job. Maybe it's a family dynamic. And you're wondering if leaving is the right choice. You're scared of being alone. You're scared of losing what you have, even if what you have is making you miserable. I can't tell you what to do, but I can tell you this. The loneliest I ever felt was sitting at a table full of people who couldn't see me. And the most free I ever felt was standing up and walking away. The room was absolutely silent now. You could hear people breathing. Here's my challenge to you. Stop trying to earn a seat at tables that were never built for you. Build your own table. Set your own standards. Invite people who celebrate your success instead of minimizing it. And when someone shows you that they're not capable of seeing your worth, believe them. Save your energy for people who deserve it. I closed with the numbers again. Growth statistics. Expansion plans. Partnership announcements. Concrete proof that success doesn't require the approval of people who don't value you. The standing ovation lasted 3 minutes. People weren't just clapping. They were crying. They were nodding. They were taking pictures of my slides to remember the message. Afterwards, the line of people waiting to talk to me stretched across the conference hall. Each person had a story. Each person needed to share their own version of being underestimated. Halfway through the line I saw him. Kwame Edwards. Standing patiently, not trying to cut ahead, just waiting his turn like everyone else. When he finally reached me, he smiled. That was powerful. Thank you. I especially liked the part about building your own table. Though I have a question. What's that? Once you've built your own table, are you open to inviting people to sit at it? Or is it strictly a solo endeavor? I laughed. I think there's room for the right people. Good to know. He paused. I was wondering if you'd like to have dinner? Not coffee. Not a professional meeting. Actual dinner. As two people who might enjoy each other's company beyond work discussions. I had been waiting for this. For him to ask. For 6 months we'd been circling around something neither of us had named yet. I'd like that, I said. Saturday? Saturday works. He smiled again and moved on to let the next person talk to me. But I felt lighter. Hopeful. Like maybe I was ready to try again. To open myself to possibility. To build something new with someone who saw me clearly from the start. The rest of the day was a blur of conversations, interviews, photo opportunities. By the time I got back to my hotel room, I was exhausted. But it was good exhaustion. The kind that comes from doing work that matters. My phone had dozens of messages. Tandy checking in. My mother proud. Veronica saying the speech was perfect. Rochelle saying I should run for office someday with rhetoric like that. And one from an unknown number. I almost deleted it. But something made me open it. Hi Naomi. This is Patricia Thompson. I watched your keynote online. I wanted to say I'm sorry. For everything. For how we treated you. For not seeing what you were building. For making you feel small. You were right to leave. I hope you're happy. You deserve to be happy. I stared at the message for a long time. Part of me wanted to respond. To say thank you for the apology. To offer forgiveness. But another part knew that some apologies come too late. Some damage can't be undone. And some relationships aren't worth resurrecting, even when the other person finally sees clearly. I deleted the message without responding. Not out of cruelty. But out of self-preservation. I didn't owe Patricia closure. I didn't owe her forgiveness. I didn't owe her anything. I owed myself peace. And peace meant not reopening doors I had closed for good reason. Saturday came. I met Kwame at a restaurant I had chosen. Something casual but nice. The kind of place where you could have real conversation without pretense. He was already there when I arrived. He stood when he saw me. Pulled out my chair. Small gestures of respect that felt natural, not performative. You look great, he said. Thanks. You clean up well too. We ordered wine. Appetizers. Settled into easy conversation about anything except work. Music we loved. Movies we'd seen. Places we wanted to travel. I've always wanted to go to Ghana, I told him. My grandmother was from there. I want to see where she grew up. We should go, he said, then caught himself. I mean, not we as in together necessarily. I just meant if you go, that would be amazing. I smiled at his sudden nervousness. We could go together. Someday. If this goes well. This, he repeated. You mean this date? I mean this attempt at building something new. Seeing if we fit together in ways that matter. I'd like that, he said. The building something part. I'm good at building things. Me too. We talked for 3 hours. About family. About dreams. About what we wanted from life beyond professional success. I want partnership, I told him honestly. Real partnership. Where both people show up fully. Where communication is clear. Where respect is automatic, not something you have to earn every day. That sounds reasonable. You'd be surprised how rare it is. I wouldn't, he said. I was engaged once. It fell apart because she wanted me to be someone I wasn't. Wanted me to fit into her family's expectations. Wanted me to shrink my ambitions to make her more comfortable. What did you do? I left. It hurt. But I knew I couldn't build a life trying to be someone else's version of me. I looked at him across the table. This man who understood. Who had walked a similar path. Who knew what it cost to choose yourself. I think we're going to get along just fine, I said. He smiled. I think you're right. We walked after dinner. Through the city. Past lit windows and busy streets. Just walking and talking and enjoying the ease of it. At my car he hesitated. Can I see you again? Definitely. Good. Because I really like you. Not billionaire you or CEO you or keynote speaker you. Just you. The person who gets excited talking about data security and laughs at terrible puns and admitted you stress-eat pretzels when you're coding. You remember that? I remember everything you tell me. That might have been the moment. The moment I realized this could be different. This could be real. We dated through spring. Slowly. Carefully. Taking time to actually know each other. He met my parents. I met his. No pressure. No performance. Just introduction to people we cared about. He came to my office. Met my team. Understood what I had built. Was genuinely impressed without being intimidated. Asked smart questions. Offered thoughtful observations. I went to his project sites. Saw the sustainable infrastructure he was developing. Learned about green technology and urban planning. Was genuinely interested in his work the way he was interested in mine. Was easy. That was the remarkable part. Was just easy. No drama. No games. No constant negotiation of respect. Just two people who liked each other building something together. In June, Beacon Tech Solutions announced major expansion. 10 new cities. Partnership with federal healthcare systems. A contract that would protect medical data for 200 million people. The press conference was huge. Cameras everywhere. Questions shouted from reporters. Tandy standing next to me looking proud. Veronica in the audience smiling. And Kwame, sitting in the back. Not trying to be part of it. Just supporting quietly. The way good partners do. After the press conference my phone buzzed. A text from Trevor. The first contact in 6 months. Congratulations. You were right. About everything. I stared at the message. Thought about responding. Decided not to. Some chapters close. You don't need to reopen them just to verify they're finished. I deleted the message and turned back to the people who mattered. My team. My partner Veronica. My parents who had driven in for the announcement. Kwame who was waiting patiently for the chaos to settle. Ready to celebrate? Tandy asked. Absolutely. We went out. The whole team. Plus families. Plus friends. A restaurant with private rooms and good food and lots of laughter. People who had built this with me. People who had believed in the vision. People who had shown up every day and done the work. I looked around the table. At all these faces. All these people who knew me. Really knew me. Who valued me. Who celebrated success without diminishing it. This was what family should feel like. This was what community should feel like. This was what support actually looked like. Kwame caught my eye from across the table. Raised his glass slightly. A private toast. Just for us. I raised mine back. To building. To believing. To choosing yourself even when it's hard. To finding people who see you clearly and celebrate what they see. To freedom. To growth. To beginning again and again and again until you get it right. To life on your own terms. Which is the only life worth living. Later that night, after everyone had gone home, after the celebrations ended, I stood at my apartment window looking out at the city. 1 year ago, I had stood at a similar window feeling lost. Feeling uncertain. Feeling like I was starting from nothing. But I hadn't been starting from nothing. I had been starting from myself. From my intelligence. From my strength. From my refusal to accept less than I deserved. And I had built something beautiful. Not just a company. Not just a career. But a life that felt true. Relationships based on respect. Partnerships built on equality. Success that no one could minimize or dismiss. My phone buzzed. Kwame. Thank you for letting me be part of tonight. Your team is incredible. Your vision is inspiring. You're impressive. Sleep well. I smiled and texted back. Thank you for being there. See you tomorrow? Definitely tomorrow. I got ready for bed. Thought about the keynote speech. About the message I had tried to convey. About the young woman in the front row who had been crying. I hope she heard what I was really saying. That leaving is hard. That rebuilding is harder. But that both are worth it. That you cannot build a real life on a foundation of making yourself small. That success means nothing if you're not actually being yourself while achieving it. I hoped she would find her own courage. Her own strength. Her own version of walking away from tables that didn't value her presence. I hoped she would build something beautiful. As I fell asleep, I thought about that dinner 1 year ago. About the moment when Veronica recognized my company. About the fork dropping. About everything changing in an instant. That moment had broken my old life. But it had also built my new one. Sometimes things have to shatter completely before you can put them back together in better shapes. Sometimes the worst dinner of your life leads to the best year of your life. Sometimes being underestimated is the beginning of the story, not the end. Sometimes walking away is the bravest thing you can do. And sometimes, just sometimes, choosing yourself is choosing everything.